Hey there, Mr. Redder here. Welcome back to another episode of Reddit Podcast Stories, where today, crazy woman tries to steal my Oreos from my cart. This just happened, and I'm still wondering what this woman was thinking. I had just walked out of Walmart, getting some stuff for dinner. I was loading my car, and the last thing I had left was my package of double-stuffed golden Oreos, and I turn around, and I see a lady taking them out of my cart. We've got crazy lady, we've got Walmart security, and me. Hey, those are mine. Crazy lady. Oh, I thought someone left them here. Me. No, ma'am, those are mine. I was just loading my truck. You're lying. Show me a receipt to prove that they're yours. I'm not doing that. Now please hand me back my Oreos so I can go home. I've had a very long day. You work at McDonald's, and I know you do, because you're wearing their shirt. You can get free food anytime you want. Just let me have the Oreos and go buy an ice cream or an apple pie. Look, there's one right across the street. Me. Just because I work at McDonald's doesn't mean that I get free food. Just give me the Oreos, because I really don't want this to go any further. Karen. I have kids that love these things, and my kids deserve them. So you're going to give them to me and like it. As we're having this stupid conversation, Walmart security pulls up. Security. What's going on? Someone told me there was an argument going on out here. Karen. Yes, this extremely rude person stole these Oreos from my basket and then claimed he bought them. I just got them back when you pulled up. Security. Is that what happened, sir? Me. No, sir. She took them out of my cart and I was trying to get them back. He's lying. Arrest him now. He stole from my kids. I just rolled my eyes. Security. There's an easy way to solve this. Please show me your receipt and we'll straighten all of this out. Karen. This is ridiculous. Who are you going to believe? Me? A sweet woman? Or a kid who works at McDonald's? He probably dropped out of school and this was the only job he could get. Security. Receipt, please. I lost it, but these are mine. I swear it. I hand him my receipt that says that I bought them 10 minutes ago. Security. Ma'am, it seems to me that you're lying, but we can go get the cameras and check to make sure. OMG, why wouldn't you just give me the Oreos? It's not like you needed them. She then walked into the store without another word. Speaking of Oreos, what's better, original or golden Oreos? Please let us know. Golden double stuffed all day. And can I just say how much I miss stories like this one? My boyfriend blocked me for renewing my lease. What can I do to make things up to him? I'm hurt and betrayed. My boyfriend is a great person and we've been together for 3 years. My boyfriend is very frugal. He graduated with a degree in computer science and has been making decent money since he graduated. When he graduated, he used the FHA loan for a humble but small townhome. I'm someone who differs in that I like luxury. Last year, I got a nice high-rise apartment in a major metropolitan area, and I signed a 14-month lease for it. With that, my rent was $4,100 a month. Eventually, with other bills, I was not able to afford it. My boyfriend's mortgage is really cheap because his place is extremely cheap. Mind you, his townhouse is only a 2-bedroom. My apartment is only 1 bedroom, but that's what you expect. You're paying for the view. It's near the top, the concierge, and the luxury experience. My boyfriend and I had a talk because I needed his help. He would cover half my rent, and then I would either move in with him or get a cheaper apartment. I could even stay in the same apartment and switch to one of the cheaper ones. I would have tried to move in with him, but not at his place. He argued that he could move, but we still couldn't find a place that works for both of us because he's so cheap. Anyway, I realized him and I will be getting married soon, so it's better to renew my lease and enjoy the high-rise, nice luxury for 1 more year. I was dreading on telling him, but last night I told him. He was upset. He said, "So you just expect me to pay half your rent again?" I told him, well, obviously. He said, "Have you considered I like nice things too, but it's hard to do that when I'm sending you $2,500 a month. I would work with you if you were just bad at managing your personal finances and I'd try to teach you." He told me it's worse than that, and that you're just selfish and trying to take advantage of me. I was angry at him, accusing me of just trying to take advantage of him. That's not true at all. I love him, and the fact that he said that really hurt me. He just hung up and blocked me everywhere. I'm going to head to his townhouse today so we can talk about this. Any suggestions? Edit. I'm taking accountability and I'm going to cancel the lease. We had a very long talk yesterday. He feels very betrayed and said this was a huge setback. He said, 1, I'm financially irresponsible because I make too much money right now and need to be financed. 2, he thinks I've been using him, and that still hurts. I told him I haven't, and I love him, and I've had opportunities to date men that make more money than him, but I want him. He laid out some conditions. Therapy, which I thought was an odd request, but I agreed to it, both individual and together. And I speak to a financial planner and follow their budget. He said they'd do that for free. He said I need to show him I want him for more than his money because he's seriously doubting that and that he's not sponsoring me anymore. I don't think OP learned anything at all. I think she's going to look for a new way to take advantage of her boyfriend. She just canceled the lease because she took it too far this time around. It seems boyfriend isn't about to let himself be used, and he's put on some good conditions for moving forward. But I agree, OP is going to learn an expensive life lesson. $4,100 rent and can't afford it? Yeah, right. Maybe I'm too poor to understand this, but paying $4,100 a month for a one-bedroom apartment? That's insanity to me. It's beyond unreasonable. The audacity of this OP. I can't imagine asking someone to cover half my rent like that. Truly shows some people just live on a different plane of reality. Hey Reddit boy, I've been thinking we should get a $4,100 a month apartment. I really want a nice view. And I've been thinking how thankful I am we have a prenup in place. My wife left me for another man. How do I move on after giving up everything for her? A week ago, my wife, Marie, told me that she fell in love with another man. It was so unexpected and I didn't see it coming. She was the person who taught me what it was like to be in love. I was married to a woman, Amanda, who I loved but wasn't in love with. I was with my ex for 8 years. We got together when I was 20. We have a kid who's turning 5 on Thanksgiving. When I met Marie, I was married and happy, and she had a fiancé. Marie threw a wrench in that. We formed a connection I never thought possible. I could talk to Marie for hours all day. She was extremely beautiful, the best-looking woman I had ever been with. One of the hardest things to do was to tell Amanda that I was in love with another woman. It crushed her. She refused to sign the divorce papers and demanded we go to therapy. Eventually, she gave in, but that was hard, seeing a woman I still cared for be in so much pain. She doesn't talk to me unless it's about our kid, and that hurts me. But I did all that for Marie. I even moved across the country from Virginia to Seattle because Marie wanted to be on the West Coast. I don't get to see my daughter as much as I want because she's still in Virginia. Despite all of that, she left. We had a great marriage, and I did so much to keep her happy, but it wasn't enough. No warning, last week, I find out that she's leaving. I'm depressed, and I've just been laying in bed. I don't know what to do. Edit 2. I'm still involved in my daughter's life for the hateful comments criticizing my parenting. I call her just about every day. Edit 3. I never cheated on Amanda. I broke things off before I did anything with Marie because I respected Amanda too much. I still care for her. She was my friend and is still the mother of my child. Unfortunately, cheaters cheat. Now you know what you put Amanda through. I'm sorry for your pain, but let it guide you to better choices in the future. OP. Yeah, I had no idea what the type of person she was. We both made sure to end things with our significant others before pursuing anything romantic. Unfortunately, she's been having an affair with this guy for 2 months now. Couldn't even give me the respect of ending things with me first. So if you fell in love with someone else and realized you were never in love with your significant other, you would just ignore it? Well, you put yourself in a position to fall in love with someone else. But if I put myself in this spot, I would go to couples therapy to understand why and how I got to that point and figure out how to co-parent. If you had done therapy, you may have figured out how you let yourself be in an emotional affair without even realizing it. You changed the trajectory of your life and your ex-wife, your kid, and Marie's fiancé's lives for a woman who is apparently a serial cheater. Did you ever question why she wanted to live on the West Coast? I wonder if it was to control or limit your interactions with your ex and your daughter. OP. I still wouldn't call it an emotional affair, but Amanda really wanted to do therapy when I told her and try to make things work. I go back and forth because when I told her, she thought it was something she did. She kept asking what did she do to make me unhappy, but it was nothing. She was a great girlfriend, wife, and mother. Sometimes I wonder if I had just tried therapy, would we at least be friends? It hurt her a lot that I didn't fight for our marriage. Once she realized I wasn't budging and wasn't willing to try anything, she became cold. To this day, I want my friend back. Update. I'm starting to finally heal. I probably won't date for a long time, but I'm starting to hang out with my friends more. I was very depressed for a month, and I still am. I tried to rekindle my friendship with Amanda, but she's not interested. She told me she still loves me, even after everything, and she wishes she didn't. That hurt. She told me how I feel about Marie is how she felt when I left her. I reassured her that it wasn't her, it was me, and that Marie brought out something that I never felt before. I told her she was a great wife, and she will find someone who will love her the way that I loved Marie. Ouch. Even after all of that, she told me she doesn't want to talk to me unless it's about her daughter and has ironically been more cold. The good news is I started a new hobby. I've been going roller skating. We formed this amateur team and the people they are really amazing. I've been keeping myself busy by doing all sorts of activities. There's nothing ironic about her coldness. You're acting like it doesn't make sense, but it does. You don't give a single hoot about Amanda. You're just lonely and trying to convince her to let you use her until the next Marie comes along. Thankfully, you're the jerk in this conversation. You showed her your true self, and she was smart enough to give you a great big kick. Your ex-wife is not a stand-in for the star of your romantic life. She's your ex. She doesn't even remotely care that you're lonely, and she shouldn't. She has her own life to live. OP, here we go again. As I explained before, I do care about Amanda. More than anything, she was my friend. I knew her for a long time. I tried to stay friends with her following our divorce. This isn't a new thing. She's the one who rejected my friendship for years. I completely understand why, but I didn't just decide out of the blue I want to be friends. She knows I wanted to be friends with her, but the ball is in her court and has been the entire time. Update. How long after a divorce should you start dating again? So I started to develop a crush on this person I've been bowling with. I've been depressed and starting doing these activities to keep myself busy. It's the first time that I started to have feelings for someone else. What's holding me back is I still love my ex. I got a new job and I'll be moving from Seattle to Phoenix soon. Amanda is now dating again, even though she's still in love with me. How do I show her that's a bad idea? I was talking to a mutual friend and she told me that Amanda put herself out there and went on a date and has been talking to this new guy. After we got off the phone, I called Amanda, but she didn't answer. So I texted her, we need to talk. Amanda eventually calls back and I ask her about our daughter. Our daughter spent the weekend at my parents' house. She told me she will pick her up in the evening. I told her this is a serious question. I asked her, are you still in love with me? She said, unfortunately, with an attitude. I said, then why would you think it's a good idea to date right now? She got angry and said that's none of my business. I told her I'm coming to you as a friend. Dating while still in love with me is not going to help. She said her therapist said it's time to put herself out there. I told her that her therapist sounds like a horrible therapist. She told me to shut up. She said, do you know how much this impacted me? She said, I loved you and always tried to be a great wife for you, and that wasn't good enough. I interrupted her on the phone and just said, Amanda. I then told her that I get it. When Marie left, my second wife, I couldn't even finish my sentence before she said, you're a jerk. She hung up and blocked me on Facebook. I don't know. I'm trying to look out for her because she's the mother of my child. But I apologized and this was her response. I copy and pasted her email response back. I appreciate your apology, but I have a lot to say. I can't stand talking to you anymore. I've already spoken to your parents and they agreed that all communication should go through them. I've said multiple times that I only want to talk if it's about our kid and you refuse to respect that. I don't think you realize or care, but your behavior since that person left you has been nothing short of disrespectful. The impact this has had on my mental health has been insane. Even though you don't care, and don't tell me you do, saying that you care doesn't mean anything. I'm going to try to explain it to you. I've tried to explain this to you multiple times, but you always turn it back to yourself. I love you. I wish I didn't, and I don't know why. You were the love of my life. As dumb as it is, I wish you were still my husband. Every time I talk to you, it's a reminder of the life that I lost. Please, going forward, if you actually care about me, respect my boundaries. As hard as it was when that person left you, imagine if you had a kid with her and had to talk to her every day as she explains that you couldn't make her happy, but this other man can. I'm not sure how to respond. I took everyone's advice, but I'm hurt. My parents went behind my back and basically agreed to act as a liaison of communication for us without talking to me. I'm trying to respect her boundaries, but what about being able to talk to my daughter? Because of her blocking me from the phone, I haven't been able to talk to my daughter. It's already hard living so far and not being able to see my daughter as much as I would like to. I want to be respectful of her boundaries, but I can't agree to anything that will have me talking to my daughter less. Update. I didn't realize it until last night. I just moved to a new place, and my neighbor, she was taking me out to drinks, and she said, "You don't open up much, do you?" I hope I can go back to the old me, but my ex took something from me. I was more vulnerable with her than any other woman, including my first wife. She taught me what love is. I made so many sacrifices for that woman, and she still cheated. I've been keeping myself busy, as it hasn't even been 6 months since this happened. But when I make new friends, like my neighbor, it's hard to let my guard down. I just wanted to ask her, why are you so nice? What's your end goal? I didn't do that, obviously, but I miss the old me. Most of the comments have been mean and hurtful. That being said, I decided to use it to self-reflect and grow. Some common things I learned. People feel like I'm not taking accountability for what happened to Amanda. I want people to know that I take full responsibility. I have to learn that even though my intentions were in the right place, that doesn't change the hurt. People think I want Amanda back. Not true. I want people to know that I do empathize with what happened. I care about her and want her to find someone. I just don't think it's healthy to date while in love with someone else. People think that I left my daughter. Not true. I'm doing my best to be in her life. Still, I do take accountability for the pain that I caused Amanda. I still care about her and I want what's best for her. I fell in love with another woman and I wish I didn't. I was horrified when it happened. Right now, I just need someone in my corner. I need comfort and to heal. I hope this clears up any misconception. Before you comment on my post, understand that I take responsibility and I'm looking for ways to grow as a person. I can't be the father I want to be with my mental health in the gutter, and that's why I need comfort and doing things to help me get out of this depression. I love how throughout the posts, he constantly tries to argue that he loved his daughter and is still very involved. But after the divorce, and after moving across the country for his affair partner, instead of moving back to be closer to his daughter, he moves to Phoenix, still nowhere near Virginia. This guy really doesn't get it, does he? OP doesn't know what responsibility or self-awareness is, cause man, he's an awful person. Guy literally had an emotional affair, abandoned his family. Yet, this post screams out, "Focus on me" vibe. What a narcissist. I'm 32, female. My fiance, who's 34, male, won't sign our prenup, which was initially agreed upon and drafted 2 years ago. I've been with my fiance for almost 5 years, engaged for 1.5 years. We are an interracial couple, me being from Canada and he's from India. I finally have a triple-figure net worth, half of which I've made since we started dating. He only has a few thousand in savings. Since our relationship, we've always had similar incomes, with him currently making more. I'm generally safer with my money, and he has lost a lot in his poor investments. He's always planned to bring over his parents from India, who I met there recently, to live with us or nearby. I was uncomfortable with this idea initially, early on in our relationship. After meeting them, I feel more flexible about this because we all got along fine while staying at their house for a few weeks. We all realized that I will be the one to pay the down payment for our first home, as I'm the only one with savings. I will likely be equally financially responsible for his parents because he can't afford to provide for them by himself, and their only wealth is their house, which they intend to keep. 2 years ago, pre-engagement, I told my then boyfriend that I'd like for us to have a cohabitation agreement because we were coming up to 2 years living together. This would also act as our prenup if we were to get married. I asked him if he'd be okay with that, and he said yes. I included him in the drafts since he didn't want to get his own lawyer. When I gave the contract to him to read and sign, he wouldn't sign it. Fast forward 2 years and it still isn't signed. I've tried explaining how it's important for me to protect myself, especially since I'll be contributing the most financially to provide for us all. I'm happy for him to get a lawyer and make amendments. I just want to know that in the worst case scenario, I won't continue to be financially responsible for all of them or lose more than my fair share because he can't support his parents. He knows I've witnessed many divorces, including my own parents. I'm a realist and want to be responsible. He feels like I don't trust him and that I must not truly love him if I'm thinking of finances. I understand that our opinions on this are somewhat cultural, but I think it's unfair for me to be flexible and willing to take all of this on, without a security net if things go south. I was very resentful and anxious after the few railed attempts I made at having him sign and discussing it. I always left the conversations feeling selfish and immoral. I eventually gave up and have tried to let it go. We're 2 months away from our wedding now, and some of this worry and resentment is resurfacing. What would you suggest doing in this situation? He's otherwise a wonderful, kind man, and I do love him. To clarify, we do currently split everything 50-50 and would continue to do so. The exception being the down payment and any potential costs he and his parents can't cover, which I know is unfair. But his argument is that we would save on childcare. Yes, he sends part of his salary home to his parents. His parents would rent out part of their house in India and keep the other half. They could contribute this, but it still won't convert to much here. They both intend on getting part-time jobs here. Ideally, they would be in an in-law suite or a duplex. I've made it clear that I don't want to share the same 4 walls while they're healthy enough to look after themselves. But who knows what we'll be able to afford. Prices in our city are insane. And yes, I meant 6-figure net worth. I wouldn't get married to him then. He is 100% assuming you're going to go through with this wedding whether he signs it or not, and he doesn't see how he could be benefiting from signing it, so he's just not going to do it. And I think you'd be crazy for letting him get away with that. Make the prenup a prerequisite for getting married. Also, you do you, but I think you're insane for entertaining the idea of his parents living with you. I love my husband's parents, but there's no way in heck I'd want them living in my house or being part of my daily life. Also, ask some of your Western assimilated Asian and Indian friends what it would be like having Indian parents living with you. Hint, it will be a very different experience than when you stayed with them and you got along for a few weeks. This is crazy. They're his parents. They're moving over here. They're not contributing financially, even though they have a house that they could sell, and their own son isn't going to contribute financially for this. Just know, if they want to come here, they can sell their house to do it at the very least, even if you still need to supplement that with some of your own money. But your husband really should be doing the lion's share here. Am I the jerk for refusing to call my daughter by her middle name after my sister gave her daughter the same first name? I, 24 female, named my 2-year-old daughter Indy. My sister, who's 35, gave birth to her first child last month, my niece, and she also named her Indy. The name Indy was not one my sister had mentioned to me before I had my kid. My boyfriend and I just really liked the name for our daughter. The name is not a family name either. I say all this because my sister is now unhappy that confusion has already started with both my daughter and hers sharing the same first name. She got into a fight with our dad because he calls them Big Indy and Little Indy, and he snapped back that he needed something to help him make it clear which Indy he was talking about. He's also told her it will only get worse as they grow up. My sister went on a rant about it. She told me everyone acts like she did something wrong and that calling her daughter Indy should not be such a big deal, but it is. She then told me I should start calling my daughter by her middle name instead of by her first name, and that everyone can be happy. I told her if she didn't like the fact that both girls shared the name and that people would come up with ways to differentiate them, then she could use her daughter's middle name, or she could create a nickname if that would be better. But I told her I will not change what I call my daughter after 2 years because she decided to use the same name for her cousin. My sister called me selfish. She told me that she had every right to name her kid whatever she wanted, and I cut her off and said yes, but that it didn't give her the right to insist that I call my daughter something else. She tried to get our mom to intervene, both with me and my dad. Mom told my sister that she should have seen this coming since dad is all too experienced with the confusion of multiple family members with the same name because his family liked reusing the same few names throughout, and he had to do the same with his family members his whole life because of it. She also told her that I used the name first, and therefore if she was unhappy with the name being used twice, then it was up to her to change it. My sister claimed I should have been able to sit down and discuss a compromise instead of refusing outright and not engaging anymore. So, am I the jerk? Not the jerk. She's the one who decided to copy the name. Assuming you have different last initials, it would just be Indy A and Indy G, or whatever the difference is. If you both have the same last initial, then maybe go with the month they were born. There's gotta be a way to differentiate. Yours is older anyways, and you can go by age or something. Hair color, eye color. But yeah, your sister was pretty dense to name her kid the same name and then demand that you go by the middle name. She did it second, therefore she's the one who's going to have to figure out a solution, or whenever you're at family events and they yell the name, they're both going to come running. And I think it's hysterical she's calling you selfish when she's the one who's causing all the problems and being demanding. Your comebacks to her were perfect. Am I the jerk for telling a doctor to shut up on a turbulent flight? I, 30 male, was on a flight from Atlanta to LAX last night. Packed flight, everyone just trying to get some sleep. About 2 hours in, the lights come on and an announcement crackles through the intercom. Turbulence ahead, fasten seatbelts, pretty standard stuff. Then all heck breaks loose. This woman, maybe late 40s, impeccably dressed, starts freaking out, screaming about air pockets, demanding to speak to the pilot, the whole 9 yards. Flight attendant, super patient lady, tries to calm her down, explains its standard procedure. Turbulence is normal. Nope, not having it. This lady, who we'll call Jane, throws a fit. Not the screeching nails on a chalkboard kind, but a cold, steely fury. She accuses the flight attendant of lying, of putting everyone in danger, and demands to be deplaned immediately. Flight attendant says that's not possible mid-flight, and Jane launches into this whole spiel about how she's a doctor, pulls out an ID to prove it, and if something happens, it's on the airplane. Now the rest of the plane is awake, people are grumbling, some look scared, a baby starts crying. Flight attendant is trying to reason with Jane, but it's like talking to a brick wall. Finally, I just lose it. I yell out, probably a little bit too loudly, "Look, lady, we all get turbulence. It's not a 5-star resort, but it's safe. Sit down and shut up before you get yourself arrested." Everyone stares at me. Jane spins around, eyes blazing, and starts in on me about disrespecting a medical professional. I fire back that a real doctor wouldn't be causing a scene and freaking everyone out. The flight attendant dives in, trying to mediate, but the damage is done. We hit some turbulence, not terrible, but enough to jostle the plane. Jane freaks out again, and some people start getting panicky. I feel awful, maybe I made things worse. The flight attendant gives me a look that could curdle milk, and then steers Jane away to talk to her privately. By the time we land, things are calmer, but the tension is thick. Jane gives me a withering look as she disembarks, and a few other people mutter thanks under their breath. So, am I the jerk? Did I just escalate a bad situation, or was I right to shut down a meltdown that was putting other passengers on edge? I'm honestly not sure. You're the jerk, but unknowingly. The crew are trained to handle these sorts of situations, and you and your frustration escalated it. I fly a lot. I'm also a very big guy who looks like he can handle himself. There's kind of an unwritten rule that if there's an aggressive passenger, I sit down, but pay attention. Don't jump in, don't risk making things worse in an attempt to fix the issue. Sit down, shut up, and if the crew need help, they'll ask. Imagine going to the supermarket and you see someone with a pallet stocking shelves. You don't just start grabbing stuff and putting it on a shelf saying, "I'm just trying to help." Let the professional handle it. You're the jerk. It doesn't matter that you're being rude to the fake doctor. It matters that you're disrespecting the flight attendant and the other passengers. You're not Batman performing some distasteful but necessary vigilantism. You're just a second loud jerk yelling at the first loud jerk. You're the jerk. Nobody made you the air marshal, and your screaming escalated the situation worse, with now 2 unruly passengers. Don't act like you were doing it for the safety of the passengers either. You admitted already you were trying to get some sleep, which you aren't owed. You were annoyed for that reason. There's a reason the flight attendant gave you that look, instead of thanking you. Well, who do you think is the jerk? OP or the doctor? Please let us know. Not the jerk. I would have clapped for you when it was done. Entitled parent tries to take my school bag, ends up going to jail. Characters. We've got me. We've got entitled parent. We've got mates 1, 2, and 3. We've got the bystander and the train driver. Innocent kid didn't really do much, just listen to his mom. I go to a reasonably expensive school in my home city, not named for obvious reasons, and the uniform is pretty distinctive. To get to it, I usually get a train for around 20 minutes to and from, plus 15-minute walk to the train station. For most of this, I am accompanied by a few mates who live in the same general area. Looking at us, you wouldn't think much. 3 to 4 relatively skinny teenagers who go to a good school. However, out of the usual squad, 2 of them do self-defense and other martial arts. Both have done it for over 6 years and are relatively high up in skill levels. This was a couple of years back, so some of the details may be a bit rusty. Now on to the story. My mates and I were waiting at the train station after school one day, and we're talking about the usual things that we talk about: video games, school, and the like. We are the nerds of the school. We see the train rock up to the platform and we get on. For once, there are more than 10 empty seats, and my mates sit down in a set of 4 while I stand. We put our bags on the ground outside the way of the walkway and continue our conversation. A few minutes pass, and then the mother of a small kid, no more than about 5 or 6, comes onto the train. By this point, most of the other seats were filled up, so my mates offered to move for them and she accepted. We picked up our bags and moved down the carriage a bit to an open area where we could stand without disrupting anyone. 2 stations later, the mother gets up, leaving her kids still sitting down, and starts asking us questions about our school. "How is your school? I hear that it is very good and gets consistently high results." Mate 1: "It is very nice, thank you. We really enjoy going there." The general theme of question goes on for a few minutes, and she asks us about the teachers, the administration, how we feel about going there, etc. After a few more questions, she turns to her kid and says, "You will go to school here. It sounds like a great place." She turns back to myself and my mates and says, "Would one of you please mind giving your uniform to my son? It looks expensive, and I think you would be able to afford it better than I will." We all deny her and make to leave the carriage. She sees us leaving and reaches down to try and take my bag and run. She does so, but doesn't get far, as mates 1 and 2 both run after her and tackle her to the ground. While this is happening, mate 3 goes up to the emergency intercom and tells the train driver to call the police and stop at the next station. When the police arrive at the next station, the entitled parent is taken into custody after the statements from myself, my 3 friends, and a random person who saw it all happen. All of this, coupled with the security tapes from the carriage, meant that she was found guilty of attempted robbery. She was charged a few fines costing over $2,000. One of these was for the fact that the train had to wait for a while for the police to arrive. She had to pay the cost of this effect. So Karen, have you ever tried taking something that didn't belong to you? Of course I have, Mr. Reddit. It's how I've gotten most of my favorite things I own. And you don't feel bad about taking people's stuff? Why should I? Let me tell you something about the world we live in. When you want something, you have to go out and get it, even if that means taking it from others. Well, how would you feel if someone just took something that belonged to you? Take something that belongs to me? I wouldn't stand for it. What kind of monster would do something like that? You can't park there. Okay, you can, but it will cost you. My parents had this problem with a guy parking a tractor trailer on their land. He lives right across from one of their pecan groves. The grove has well-spaced trees all in neat rows. The grass is mowed super short. The ground is really flat. It looks like an ideal place to pull your rig if you don't know better. The ground is so flat because they use mechanical harvesting. Bumps and grooves can cause the machines to leave pecans laying on the ground. A 2-inch deep grove from a big truck like that can hold thousands of dollars of pecans and will until it is fixed. Oh, and you have to get them up by hand. It's a big deal when someone messes with your livelihood like that. So the guy parks there one time. They get it. He probably doesn't understand he's causing so much trouble. Dad goes down, explains the damage he has done, tells him the grove is private property and not to do it again. Dude, we'll call him Dude, agrees, apologizes. Dad goes home, fixes damage midweek. Next Friday, there is the truck again, same spot. Dad, not about to put up with this, calls the sheriff's department. Cop comes, truck moves. Dad fixes damage midweek. Next week, no truck. 1 week later, truck is back. Repeat complaint for trespassing to sheriff. Dude claims he forgot. He drives over the road, and his Home Depot where his car is parked is 30 miles away. It is convenient for Dude to forget because he saves his gas and time by driving his employer's rig and parking it on my parents' land. Also, he doesn't get nailed if his cab isn't clean. No other driver gets assigned his truck. There are plain motivations. Dude clearly does not forget every time he is home, but this is what he claims to the deputies sent out on the complaints. After 7 times the sheriff's department is called, he finally gets a trespassing citation. No fine is levied. Drives his car 2 weeks in a row. Following week, truck is back. At this point, my dad has fixed this damage so often, he is keeping a tractor and blade on the property, so it gets done faster and easier. Calls the sheriff yet again. The sheriff himself comes out this time. Truck leaves. Sheriff comes to see my dad. Says the enforcement problem is that it is hard to explain to a court the harm when pictures hardly show any damage, and Dude always apologizes and moves the truck when deputies come. Says getting Dude for trespassing under those circumstances is going to be tough, but he is on this and will see it through for my parents, but his office is 30 miles away, not that many deputies to be out patrolling, etc. And then the sheriff, bless his little elected heart, says, But if there were something different, like a theft of services going on, the next day, signs go up on 80 trees in a row. 8,000 feet, they are 100 feet apart. Semi-parking, $500 per hour. Prepay, violators will be towed. Dude doesn't pay the signs any mind. Dude does, however, pay the tow truck and deputies quite a bit of mind. Comes running and screaming, waving his arms as they are hooking up. Well, before my dad called to have him towed, everything was documented, including having the sheriff himself drive by and take several pictures of the truck parked with the clearly visible signs. Everything is put on hold while Dude's employer, who owns the truck, drives out. After 3 hours, Dude's boss gives up and writes a check for $7,800 to cover parking and tow truck fees. That actually covered the tow truck, all the repairs, printing the signs, and beer for about a year for my dad's Tuesday poker gathering. Salute. Dude, who still lives there, does not park in the Pecan Grove. His boss payroll deducted his checks for 2 years. Yes, my dad is awesome. Serves him right for parking there over and over. Oh, he wasn't doing anything wrong. Let the man park his truck there and stop being such a baby. But the truck was damaging the ground and affecting their business. Excuses, excuses. I would have just kept parking there, and if he had called the sheriff on me, I would have sued him. Would you really be able to sue someone for calling the cops on you? Oh, Mr. Reddit, you can sue someone for just about anything nowadays. Well, can I sue my viewers if they don't smash that thumbs up? Smooth, Mr. Reddit, real smooth. Husband goes full drill sergeant on a Karen. Before I start this story, I have to tell you about my husband. I'm French and we met while he was on vacation in Europe. One thing led to another and now I live in Ohio with him. He is a hard-working gentleman, an Army veteran of 2 conflicts, and though he has a very serious and almost hostile demeanor, think resting jerk face, but angrier and on a guy, he is a big teddy bear, quick to make a joke or pull a prank and easy to laugh. He is also very protective of me. Since I'm not here to gush on him, I'll go on. We were out getting groceries last week. As we were checking out, I was bagging up all our stuff because the store now requires that you bag your own goods if you bring your own bags. No big deal. He pays, and I stay to help a very elderly lady behind him bag her groceries and put them in her cart. He had helped her unload them, and we offered to help her put them in her car. She shuffles away from the register, and I move to follow. As I turn away, I hear behind me, "Where the heck do you think you're going?" I turn to see a very angry-looking woman glaring at me. I told her politely that I didn't work at the store and I had just helped the elderly lady to be polite and that I was now leaving with my husband to go home. I had never met an American Karen before, so I thought this would be the end of it. I turn to walk away and feel a vice grip on my arm. "Don't be lazy. Just do your job and help bag my groceries." I didn't even have time to respond. She had barely finished speaking when my husband wrenched her hand off me and was yelling in her face. This was the first time in the 10 years we've been together that I saw the old soldier come out. His nose might have been 3 inches from hers, and his voice was loud and frightening. "Who the heck do you think you are? How dare you put your hands on my wife? She told you she doesn't work here. Are you too stupid to understand simple English? Go bag your own groceries, and don't you dare utter another sound." The silence after that was intense. A store full of people could hear a pin drop. The look on her face wasn't even angry. It was pure terror. She shuffled back to her aisle and waited for the cashier. My husband went to the old lady and said, "I am so sorry you had to hear all that, ma'am. I apologize. I hope you will still allow us to help you load your groceries into your car." It was surreal, like he had just flipped on a switch and flipped it back off. Also, we got chased down by the store manager who suggested we could be banned because of the yelling. Husband just shrugged and said they had better ban the Karen too for assaulting me and that there are other grocery stores in town. We just go to this one because it's close. Didn't get banned. Now that's how you put a Karen in her place. Oh, shut up, Mr. Reddit. What do you know about putting a Karen in her place? I know I put you in yours right across from me, and you've been sitting there ever since. Steal my design and get all the credit? Enjoy getting kicked off. So my friend over in Korea studies fashion design. She sometimes sends me over the sketches of the designs and they all look amazing. Then again, I'm not into fashion. She is particularly interested in designing handbags and purses. She told me a story about how she shut down one of the most entitled, self-centered, lazy students on campus. Cast. We've got Grace, our main character girl. We've got Jane, the evil one. We've got the professor, the instructor of the course. Story. At first, Grace and Jane got along just fine. They were both interested in similar stuff and quickly became BFFs. Grace decided to show Jane her sketches and designs for handbags and purses, and Jane was so impressed by it. Because the sketches were in incredible detail, including all of the patterns and sew lines coupled with figurative measurements. Even Professor was impressed by it, and it was no surprise that Grace got a high mark on their first major exam. Jane didn't do so well and practically followed Grace everywhere to get pointers on how to do better. So Grace decided to help her out. Unfortunately, Jane turned out to be one of the most entitled, lazy, and selfish people that Grace has ever met. Things that Jane did to upset Grace included, but are not limited to, not paying attention, being late on their study session, never showing appreciation, didn't pay for coffee or snacks, complaining annoyingly about how hard it was to draw something. Grace pretty much gave up on her after a week, refusing to meet Jane outside of her class. Time went by, and for their midterm, everyone in the class had to do a presentation on the stuff they had designed. When it was Jane's turn, Grace was shocked to see Jane had stolen one of her designs. Thankfully, Grace had multiple designs going on, so there were no conflicts when it was her turn to present. But she was seething with rage. Grace had a meeting with the professor afterwards, and the professor knew what was going on, but couldn't really do anything with Jane because it turns out she was the daughter of the chairman, or one of the major investors. Grace said she can't recall. The chairman apparently blackmailed the professor into giving Jane the best grades. The revenge. Professor did, however, help Grace devise a plan to humiliate and expose Jane. For the finals, the professor announced to the class they would do another presentation, but it would be 3 designs, and advised they had to bring their A games because professionals from industries would be grading their work. Now the head of the department and the chairman would be there as well. So you know how Grace had a bunch of sketches for the class? Well, Grace also had a separate sketchbook that had designs from major brands. MK, Coach, you name it. She never used these directly for class assignments, but rather as inspirations for her designs. Grace pretended to be all friendly with Jane again and brought the other sketchbook on their meetings, still putting up with all the problems mentioned above. Grace secretly worked tirelessly on her new design and did her best to keep it a secret from Jane. So the day of the final presentation arrives, and Grace and Professor are grinning because they know what is about to happen. Grace went first, and she got a lot of praise from the judges. After a few more presentations, the last one to go was Jane. Jane's presentation turned out to be another copycat, copying designs of not 1, not 2, but 3 different companies. After the presentation, this was how it all went down, at least according to Grace. Judge 1. So, you are saying you designed all of these by yourself, right? Jane. That's right. Judge. And you swear that it really was your design, and you didn't copy off from anything else, right? Jane. I swear. Judge. You are aware your designs are from these brands? Huh? Are you aware that these are on the market right now, and some of the most popular designs? Wait, hold on. Judge 2. Yeah, I was going to bring this up. If you had worked for any brands, you would have probably been fired, or worst case, sued. Jane. But... Judge 2. Please, I am not done yet. Did you honestly think this would work? We, the judges, have been in the industry for over 10 years. We know a copycat when we see it. But these aren't even my designs. They are from Grace. Judge 3 to Grace. Is this true? Grace. Yes, but I never use them for major projects, nor call them my work. I just use sketches of them as inspiration for my own designs. Judge 3. Well, that was clear from your presentation. Turning back to Jane. Now, Miss Jane, this is a clear case of plagiarism, and I do hope your school is merciful on this matter. After the presentation was over, the chairman screamed at the professor in front of everyone, not realizing he just revealed all the blackmailing and the secret grade deal. Jane tried to call out Grace on how she did her over, but it really didn't matter. No one listened to Jane's attempt and slander, and she was kicked out of the school. Chairman pretty much lost all support and had to resign and was replaced by a far more honorable and competent one. Nothing better than a cheater getting busted. Oh, she didn't even do anything wrong. Karen, she stole her designs and used them for a graded class project. Oh, that's fine. I did that all throughout my high school career, and look how I turned out. Entitled family forces me to babysit for an entire weekend, makes me miss my mother's birthday. So let us start. I am Ghanaian, and if anyone knows anything about West Africa, you will know that Ghanaians and Nigerians share a lot in common and often find themselves in the same communities. So the entitled family cast. We've got entitled mother, entitled father, entitled kids 1 and 2. This is a Nigerian family that had moved into our little town and naturally entered my parents' circles and therefore became family friends. This started the process of them becoming a thorn in our family sides. The event I'll mention is what severed ties between our families. So after a couple of years living in our town, they had moved to the nearby city where entitled father got a nice job as a consultant, doctor, in cardiology. Good for them, but when they moved, they put entitled kids in private school and became integrated into the high society, and my city is a very affluent city in the UK. If their entitlement was a 6, they were 12 now. Once in a while, when they wanted to go to their high society parties, I would be asked to babysit their entitled kids for the night. I didn't mind. I got on with the kids as I established that I am not one to mess with. If they obeyed rules, they were rewarded, but I had no qualms punishing them and held firm to my boundaries. Once they understood, they were mostly well behaved. In fact, I got way better at parenting their kids than them. When I gave instructions, they obeyed. They didn't even obey their parents' instructions. Anyway, I have a busy life juggling a master's with a job, so usually when I babysat the night, I usually had plans for the day after. But as time went on, the entitled parents kept ignoring my plans and finding ways to make me stay the rest of the day, like forcing me to go to church with them and conveniently going shopping in the mall for hours when they were meant to drive me home. I lived a 40-minute drive from them. No matter how much I protested, they kept finding ways. Anyway, the event. I was asked to babysit whilst they went for dinner on a Friday night. My mother's birthday was on Saturday, so I made it abundantly clear that I had to leave in the morning to spend the day with my mom. They said they will drop me home by 9 a.m. on Saturday. I agreed. They went to their party. Around 2 a.m., the entitled parents have still not arrived, and I went to sleep. I woke up around 7 a.m. and realized they were not home. I rang them to find where they were. This was the phone call. Me. Auntie, African custom to call older females aunt, whether they are related or not. Please, where are you? You said you would drop me home today. Entitled mom. Oh, OP, the party ran late. Are the kids okay? Is something wrong? Me. The kids are okay. We were wondering where you are and when you're coming home. Entitled mom. Oh, we are in our hotel room. We have a meeting all day today and we'll be back Sunday. They had lied and gone to London for the weekend. Me. Auntie, I can't stay the weekend. I have to go to mom's for her birthday. I am sure your mother will understand if you miss it as you are busy with the kids. Me. No, she won't. My mother is dramatic, and you promised me. Maybe I can take them home with me. No, there is no way you should take them on public transport. I don't want them sitting in the dirty train. Me. But I have to go home. No, stay. Stay with the kids and don't take them anywhere. Do you hear me? It's not like I left you with nothing. You should be grateful. I cooked for you. Small things I ask of you, and you are being disrespectful. Where are your manners? Didn't your mother raise you to respect your elders? One weekend with kids and you're throwing a tantrum. I feel sorry for your future children. She hung up and refused to pick up my calls. I ring my mother and tell her the situation. I'm upset. She is upset, and the best way to fight an entitled parent is to send another entitled parent to battle with them. My mother has been a mother longer than her and has mastered her dramatic manipulation technique. So my mother rings her and lays into her. My mother rings again and tells me to take care of the kids for the weekend, but this will be the last time I will ever babysit for the family. So I stayed for the weekend and dealt with entitled kid shenanigans. My parents arrive on Sunday to pick me up, and together we wait for entitled parents. Now bear in mind, I don't know what went down in the phone call between the two sets of parents, but when entitled parents arrive, they look shook. The minute they see my mother, they are scared. They don't even say anything to me. The entitled father just pushed 150 pounds into my hands, and my mother drags me into the car. The entitled parents lock the door in a hurry, and my parents are fuming in silence on the way home. I have never seen such animosity. Anyway, that was the last time I ever saw that family ever again. Update. I rang my mom and asked, so bear in mind that both parties believe in African superstitions. So obviously during this phone call between the mothers, my mom is upset. She's screaming and started calling them out since they became well off, how they have changed and have grown horns, and now my mom is going to make it her personal mission to remove the horns since their parents don't love them enough to do so. She is doing it as a caring, concerned Christian woman. She threatened to ring the hospital. Oh, fun fact, they work in the same hospital. My mom is a nurse, and make them aware of the NSPCC allegations she's about to make and let all his colleagues know. Then remember I said both are Christian? This is where the weird irony. My mom's relative is a juju, voodoo-like priest in Ghana. My mother told the entitled parents that she was going to make me go into their bathroom to collect personal stuff and have it sent to the juju priest to cast black magic on them. She said she was going to rain down curses and make sure they never prosper. If they didn't want that to happen, they better make my time worthwhile, and it better be able to buy her an awesome gift, hence the 150 pounds. Before that, I was babysitting for free because I liked their kids. After, my parents and I went to a great restaurant to celebrate the birthday. Why do some people think you should babysit for them for free? Oh, I never pay my babysitters. They're just lucky I let them watch my angels. Karen, you really don't pay your babysitters? Well, initially I tell them I'm going to pay them, but I just never do. It saves me a lot of money. And they continue to babysit for you after you stiff them like that? That's the only problem. For some reason, they refuse to babysit again after that. And I just can't seem to figure out why. Kid asks for plush. Mom immediately insults me because I didn't give it to him right after he asked. This was on my little brother's birthday, April 17th. Me and my mom were at Walmart picking up a cake for everyone to have, then a small personal one for him to eat to himself. After grabbing things like groceries, the cake, and a box of diapers, me and my mom decided to grab him this robotic dinosaur toy as another birthday present because his dad, who was deported out of our country, had managed to send my mom some money and said to buy him something from his dad. As we're going through the aisles, I stop because I wanted to grab a pack of trading cards for myself when I see a Bulbasaur plush, last one, sitting beside two Squirtles and a Pikachu. I was paying for my own stuff, so I didn't ask my mom if I could have them or not. Going back to join her, we grab the dino toy and a few more quick things from the pharmacy. We go to self-checkout, and I decide to go to one and buy my stuff quickly so I can help my mom out with the heavier stuff in the cart. I scan the Bulbasaur first and put him in my bag before scanning the cards, a drink, and some candy. I'm about to put my money in to pay when I notice a small kid is looking into my bag. I don't know if it was just that he happened to be really pale or if he was sick, but I wasn't going to take my chances since I'm higher risk. Only there because my mom jacked up her shoulder and can't lift heavy things. I swipe my bag away from him and shove my 20 into the machine, asking him very nicely to go back to his parent. He looks at me and says, "You got the Bulbasaur. They only had Pichu and the turtle in the aisle. Could we please trade? I already got the turtles, but I don't like Pichu much." I didn't even get to speak because as soon as he stopped speaking, his mother started, "Just give him the dang toy. You're like 12. You don't need a plushie." He asked, "Now give." I look at her before speaking in a tired tone. "Ma'am, I am 17 years old, and I do not think you should be speaking to me like that. You should learn some manners and be a better role model for your kid." He had asked me already to trade the plushie. I get cut off. "Oh, shut up already and give my baby the toy. I don't care how old you are. I'm an adult and you're just a kid." My mom looks upset. I send her a quick text in my hoodie pocket that, thanks to autocorrect, said, "Let Key handle it." Turning to the kid, I ignored his mom for a minute as I talked to him. "Sorry, kiddo, but I want to keep the Bulbasaur. How about I give you some candy for asking nicely instead of trying to take it?" I handed him a bag of M&Ms I had planned to eat on the car ride home, and he seemed content. telling his mom he wanted to go as I turned and walked to my mom and grabbed the heavy stuff for her. Then entitled mom comes over, barely says, "Excuse me," and my mom whips around, nearly hitting them with her long braid, Rapunzel-looking hair she's been growing out since she was a kid, and says, "You better be over here to apologize for my son for being a jerk and not be trying to take something he bought with his own money." Now, I can't remember the argument as I tuned it out. Pretty sure the kid did too, because he was happily eating M&Ms, but it ended quickly as I just finished scanning everything and put myself between the two and said, "I get the adults are almost screaming at each other, but can you at least pay so I can put everything in the car? The ice cream's gonna start melting, and you left your youngest two with your sister." Reluctantly on my mother's end, me and my mom started to leave, and the kid comes up and happily chirps, "Thank you. I'ma tell Daddy I was a good boy and asked nicely, and I'll make sure he knows Mommy was a meanie." On the car ride home, my mom yelled up a storm about that woman, and I chugged some Coca-Cola and wondered how the dad was gonna react to his wife being a meanie, according to his son. My little brother shoved his face into his cake and more so demolished it instead of ate it. Hey Karen, did you ever watch Pokemon? Oh no, but I know what it is. My kids have so much Pokemon stuff. It's ridiculous. Nice. You know, I've heard that stuff can be pretty expensive. Oh, I wouldn't know. We never buy it. We just take it from people when we see something we like. You mean like stealing? Oh heavens no. Do you think we are some sort of criminals? So what's the difference between you taking people's stuff and criminals stealing it? How dare you! The difference is, I'm not a criminal. I helped my grandma, so I must work here? So this happened to me about September last year. I was wearing a light blue button-up shirt, jeans, and formal black slip-on shoes, and I was with my grandma. Amazing old lady, would do anything for anyone and never want anything in return other than for the person to pay it forward. I've grown up my whole life following those words. So I'm at the local supermarket with my elderly grandma doing some shopping, walking through the store, just grabbing bits and bats, anything we need, obviously talking to her through the store, helping put things into the cart, grabbing stuff from the tops of shelves that she can't reach, you know, the kind of thing anyone would do. And it was at this point, heck would drop a Karen right in front of me. Grandma, "Oh, I was thinking about doing some cookies for us to share and enjoy. Would you like that?" I should note my grandma is very well aware of everything. She has full motor skills and is actually a very good baker, even now. You'll never see her not doing something like gardening, baking, sewing, knitting, grandma-like things, I guess. Me, yeah, sure, we can do that. Just tell me what you need. I'll quickly grab it while you wait here. So grandma lists off everything I need to grab and stands at the end of the aisle waiting. I run off, grabbing a few items, showing her from down the aisle to confirm the brand or the type she wants, when the clearing of the throat sounded behind me. I turned around, slightly having a quick glance. It was nobody, just someone actually clearing their throat. I was safe. Then the ill-fated tap on my shoulder. I turned around, hoping it's not what I think it is. Karen, "Excuse me? When you're done waving them items around in the air, can you give me them?" Me, sorry, no. I'm buying these for myself and my grandma, but I can quickly grab you some from the top if you can't reach them yourself. Karen, you're buying them yourself? That's very selfish of you. Buying items while on the clock? So unprofessional, and from a manager no less. She looks me up and down, seeing my clothes. Me, I'm not a man. She cuts me off, snatching a box out of my hand. "Shut up and give me them now. I'm going to call your corporate office for this." She pauses, looking at the box. "I don't want this brand. Give me the other." Me, "Lady, I don't even work here. Give me that back. I'm buying it myself like I told you." My grandma at this point has walked away and found an actual employee, pointing Karen out. While she continues on her rampage of calling corporate and getting me written up, even fired when store employee walks up. Store employee, "Ma'am, what seems to be the problem here?" "Your manager is buying items while on the clock. I want corporate's number. You deserve better than him, young man." Me, "Lady, listen to what I've told you a dozen times already. I don't work here." Karen just screeches, "Shut up." She hits me with the box, bursting it open, making the produce fall out onto the floor. I grab the Karen's wrist. Me, "What the heck, lady?" Store employee radios in the incident to security. Employee. Yeah, we've got a crazy lady hitting another customer with items from the shelves. Karen. I'm not crazy, you jerk. And unhand me, you monster. Let me go, you're hurting me. She swings at me again, catching me on the cheek. That's when my grandma comes over. You don't mess with grandma's grandson. I let Karen go, and then smack. Grandma. Listen here, you ungrateful stuck-up jerk. You do not do that to my grandson, ever. Karen goes to swing at my grandma, screaming her head off, so loud you could actually hear dogs howling from miles away. When I grab her arm, along with the security guard who had made her way over, who told me to let go, took the Karen's other arm and pinned her down. The store employee took me and my grandma away from it all, taking us to the front of the store, constantly apologizing while laughing and joking with us about the slap from my grandma. Police arrived and questioned us about what had happened once it was all cleared up. The actual manager appeared, not only got his staff to grab everything for us both, but allowed us to have it for free. An amazing guy. We refused several times, but he wouldn't allow us to actually pay. Not 10 minutes later, Karen was dragged out of the store in handcuffs. There was a bunch of little conversations that happened, but I don't remember what was said too well, so I left it out. I went back to the store 2 days later and found the same store employee, asked him what actually happened with her. As far as he knows, she was an apparent reoffender of the same thing, and to his knowledge, she was still in a prison cell. Well, sounds like that Karen definitely learned her lesson. She did nothing wrong. She just wanted help. Yeah, she actually reminded me of you a lot. Maybe you guys are related or something. Possibly. Almost sounds like she could have been my cousin Carol, or my Aunt Jackie, or my… Well, as interesting as the Karen family tree is, entitled jerk tries to ask me out, his entitled mom steps in. Cast. We've got me, Ellie. We've got entitled kid. We've got entitled mom. We've got my brothers, Chris and Keith. For some context, I am 5'1". I'm tiny. People would say I'm attractive, doesn't always work in my favor. I'm at the mall with my two brothers, but I went to Forever 21 while they went somewhere else. I get everything, and I start to walk out of the store. Entitled Kid stops me. Hi, I'm Entitled Kid. Me. Hi, Entitled Kid. Do I know you? Entitled Kid. No. But are we in Paris? I don't say anything. Entitled Kid doesn't say anything. Me. No? Entitled Kid. 'Cause I fell for you. Me. Oh, that's funny. Haha. I'm Ellie, but I'm sorry. I'm already in a relationship. Entitled Kid. Did I ask that? Haha. Me. Well, I'm very loyal to my boyfriend, and I think I'm a bit older than you. Well, who says you can't have a guy on the side? You look like a party girl, and you're wearing short shorts. You can't wear those if you have a boyfriend. Stop making excuses. Me. First of all, I can wear whatever I want. Entitled Kid blocks me in with his hands. Me. Please stop. I don't feel comfortable. At this point, I see a woman standing a ways off, watching this intensely. I figure it's his mother. Entitled Kid. Come on, you probably go to school with me. I mean, you're shopping at our town mall. Me. Oh, I'm very sorry, but I'm actually 23 and don't go to high school anymore. Oh, stop lying. You're like 4 feet tall. Me. Entitled Kid, I'm sorry about this. I'm 23 and you're like 16. Oh my god, you do go to school with me. That's how you know I'm 16. Me. Look, I can't date you. I'm sure you'll find a great girl that you can take to prom and whatever. I start to move his hands out of the way, and Entitled Mom runs over at the speed of sound. Entitled Kid starts sniffling. Entitled Mom. How dare you speak to my son that way? Me. Ma'am, he's 16. Be quiet. Okay, Entitled Kid, work your magic now. Entitled Mom steps back. Entitled Kid. So, you want to go down to Texas Roadhouse or something? Entitled Mom, evil grin. Me. Look, Entitled Kid, you're a great kid, but I'm too old for you. Entitled Mom. Nope. You're going to go with him. If you're that picky, you can choose the place. Me. No, I'm not going to go anywhere with him. I don't care. She grabs my wrist. Me. Stop. Leave me alone. I try to get out of Entitled Mom's grip, but I'm too tiny, and Entitled Kid grabs my other hand. I scream and manage to start calling my brother on my watch. Keith and Chris came running. Now, I got the short end of the stick with the height. My mom's entire family is tall. Chris is 6'7" and Keith is 6'4". Chris, let go of her. Keith, now, I'm not asking again. I don't know where the security guards were here. Maybe it was just a crappy mall. Entitled Mom lets go and pretends she's hurt, but they shut that down real quick. Entitled Mom was pretty intimidated by them. She was probably only 5'6". Entitled Mom, well, my son is asking her on a date. That's all, a date. Chris, well, how old is your son? Ellie is 23. Entitled Kid, I'm 16. Keith, let go of her, Entitled Kid. She's 7 years older than him. Are we done here? Entitled Mom, she's not 23. She looks like she's 16. I want proof. I show Entitled Mom my driver's license. Well, that could be fake. Just go on a date with him, or just as friends. It's not that hard. Me, no, goodbye. Entitled Kid in the distance. Can I have your number? We walk away and enjoy some Panera. Please respect people's boundaries and be sensible. Wow, it sounds like she really dodged a bullet on that one. Wrong. She's the one who's going to be missing out. That boy sounded perfect for her. He really reminded me of my son. I bet he did, Karen. I bet he did. And I really admire that mother for trying to help her son get what should be rightfully his. Karen? Yes? You are sick. Entitled Mom wants me to weigh her candy at the movie theater. Having worked during college at the local movie theater, I came across all kinds of Karens. In this particular case, Karen went to the movies with her 2 kids, around the ages of 4 to 5. As you guys know, movie theaters have high prices for snacks and drinks. It was Sunday morning, and usually this is a busy time with a lot of kids and kids' movies. It's obvious that I'm dealing with a total Karen straight from the start, keeping on her sunglasses, chewing gum, and being on the phone the entire time she's waiting in line. When it's her turn, I think to myself, my shift just started. Just be nice, and maybe this will all go over smoothly. It didn't. Karen is annoyed by the prices of the tickets. You can buy the tickets and your snacks at the same register, and is not happy with the assortment of healthy snacks. I'm still there, trying to keep up my best smile like I'm the Joker in a low-budget Batman movie, but I'm getting through her order. Now for the kids. As they were acting like dogs running around the place, I will name them like dogs. So Kid 1 is Ollie, Kid 2 is Rex. Note, where I'm from, we have a display where you can scoop your own candy in a bag for a fixed price per 100 grams, 3.5 ounces. Being a movie theater, this is crazy expensive, and a full bag can cost around €16, $17.50 US. Ollie, Mommy, can we scoop some candy? Karen, how much for the candy? Me, it's $1.50 per 100 grams. Yes, Ollie, hurry up with the candy. Rex, Mom, I want some candy too. Karen, Ollie, help your brother get his candy. At this point, she already spent way too much time in line. Normally, you can scoop the candy before you make your purchase to prevent the transaction from taking an extremely long time, and we can help the other customers. Not for Miss Karen though, she just goes back to texting on her phone. I'm baffled, annoyed, and just want to go help other customers because the movie is starting in 15 minutes and the lines for the registers are not moving at all. So me, the good Samaritan that I am, try to eyeball the bag of candy Ollie has so that I can get a rough estimate how much the candy will cost. To my enjoyment, I see the kid with an enormous bag of candy almost the size of his head. So I estimate that it will be around €15. Rex's bag isn't that full, but he is still scooping, and I think to myself, realistically, the price will be higher, but I just want this to be over, and I don't want to overprice them. Me, the total will be €44. Karen, what? Why is it so expensive? Me, Miss, the candy weighs a lot, and the price, but you didn't even weigh it. You're just trying to rip me off. Weigh it and give me the correct price, she says as she grabs the bags from Ollie and Rex. Well, she was correct. I didn't weigh it, but I wasn't trying to rip her off. Heck, I was giving her a huge discount. So I smiled to her and grabbed the bags of candy and put them on the scale. I can see the price, and so can the customer. Me, sure miss. As you can see, the price of the candy costs €24, so your total will be 53 euros. So of course Karen gets angry and wants me to call the manager because I am still ripping her off. The managers come along, weigh the candy, and confirm that the price is 53 euros. Because you have to pay the candy when you grab it because of hygiene rules and there is a big sign, Karen eventually buys everything and walks away angry with her kids. Luckily for me, the manager was a nice dude, so I didn't get into trouble for guessing the weight. And at the end of the shift, I was glad I could ruin a movie experience for Karen. I guess Karen should have been paying a little more attention and a little less time on her phone. Oh, shut up, Mr. Reddit. That candy was way too expensive. I would have thrown it back in his face. You know, it sure was expensive, but hey, that's movie theaters for you. We usually just steal other people's popcorn when they aren't looking. Oh no, don't do that, Karen. Just sneak in some McDonald's in your purse. That's feisty, Mr. Reddit. I know, right? But I still like my way better. My son can't move out on time. It's too mentally stressful. After being scarred by my internship, I finally have the space to think about it and remembered my favorite story. Cast. We've got me, poor graduate school intern. We've got entitled Rich Dad. We've got entitled Kid, the college junior. And we've got the boss, my supervisor. I did my internship in Greek life at a very rich school. I ran the move-out process for our chapter houses, and we had informed the students since February what the May date was for move-outs. They could apply for extinctions until about April 20th, and most were accepted with a fee and accepted until the 27th with a late fee and a damage responsibility waiver for all extensions. Enter entitled kid. We have a lot of entitled kids at the school, but this entitled kid decides to apply May 1st and asks for a day extension because he didn't start packing until a few days before finals. When he is summarily rejected for being past even the late deadline, he calls the office screaming about how it isn't fair and how he obviously was studying for finals, so why should he pack? When that didn't work, he dropped by the office and was rejected again by me for the same reason. He let me know in the most snotty Draco Malfoy tone I had heard yet. I understand that there is nothing that I can do. My father will be giving you a call. Sure enough, about an hour later, Entitled Dad calls. Entitled Dad. Hello, is this OP? Me. Yes, this is she. Yes, I heard from my son that he would not be granted a move-out extension. Me. Yes, unfortunately, he applied after the date and there are no other people approved for an extension in his house, so it was denied for safety purposes. An aside, there has been a tradition that seniors would try and coerce people with extensions to let them into the house after closing to party, and the seniors often trash the house, leaving thousands of dollars in damages. Entitled Dad, still in nice voice. Well, I just don't think that that's acceptable to us. I am concerned for his mental health while studying at this school, and he should not be packing during finals. Me. Sir, all students were reminded in February and April about move-out dates, and all move-out dates have been posted since last August. Entitled Dad. No, you don't understand that you are causing him mental distress. You will give him an extension. This is absolutely unacceptable. We do not pay thousands to go to this school for you to have him fail because of some stupid policy. Me. I am sorry you feel that way, sir. But again, we have reminded students several times about the extension application, and unfortunately, he did not apply on time. Where is your supervisor? I demand to speak with him. Well, my supervisor was in a meeting. I told him so. He flips out more, and I hope my boss backs me up. He doesn't. The kid gets his extension. Why? Because Entitled Dad is friends with a board member, and my boss doesn't want it escalated. I hate rich schools. Just goes to show you why we should never procrastinate on doing the things we have to do. Unless you have a rich mommy or daddy who's friends with the board member. Fair enough, Karen. Fair enough. So you want this now? For free? And will have my job if I don't provide it? I was doing my end-of-month shopping trip, picking up necessities and some stuff for a barbecue I'm having this weekend. I had all the necessities and was heading to the frozen food/meat section. I saw that someone had put a box of chicken fingers in the snack food section and figured I'd put it back while I was there. I had just finished putting it away. The chicken section is beside the deli, and went to walk away when I heard an "Excuse me," with a super disgusted/angry tone. I turned around and was greeted by a heavy-set woman. Before I could say anything, she started in on me. "You need to get me some ham." Me. The ham that's prepackaged is over there. Gestures behind me. "You can go get it." "Well, no. I want it from the deli and I'm in a hurry. So could you make it quick? Thanks." She looked down at her phone after that, so I just walked away to find some hamburger to make some delicious burgers. I picked up 2 packages and put it in my cart. As I was about to walk away, she rammed my cart and began yelling, "I asked you to do something for me. Now do it." Me. "Okay, maybe you didn't see, but I'm in a red sweater and shorts. Employees here are in a dark blue shirt and black pants. I don't work here. I can't help you." "I saw you putting stuff away. You work here. Stop being lazy and do your dang job." Nearby employee sees/hears what's happening and sends a manager over. Seen as heavy-set woman refuses to let me leave and continues screeching that it's my job to assist her. As she's still screeching that she'll have my job, the manager walks up. Manager. "Hi, I'm the manager here. What seems to be the problem?" Karen. "Your stupid employee here refuses to do her job. That's the problem." Me. "I've told you, I don't work here. I'm literally trying to do my shopping right now." Gestures to my half-full cart. "You work here? I saw you putting stuff from that cart away. Stop lying." Turns to manager. "I want her fired. She's lazy, incompetent, and has no right to talk to a customer like this." Manager. "Well, I'm 100% sure she doesn't work here, so I can't." She cuts him off. Karen, in the most condescending tone. "She was putting groceries away from the cart she's pushing. She works here. I know it. Don't treat me like I'm stupid. Fire her." Manager looks me up and down. Me. "I don't work here. Can I please go and finish my shopping?" Karen. "Get me my ham and you can. I'm not paying for it either. It can come out of your check." Condescending tone again. "If you get one after being fired, that is." Manager. "Okay, look. She doesn't work here. She is most definitely not in our uniform." Gestures to himself. "Please stop harassing our customers or you will be escorted out." "Stop saying she doesn't work here." Me. "Well, I don't work here. So, yeah." The manager was getting fed up and moved her cart from mine so I could walk away and finish my shopping. I heard Banshee-like screaming through the store for the next 5 minutes or so. Don't know what came out of it, but when I left the store, there were 3 cop cars sitting outside. Man, that Karen really wanted that ham, didn't she? Of course she did. Ham is the best. It is pretty good, isn't it? Too bad that lazy employee refused to help her. She wasn't even an employee though. Then why was she putting an item back into the freezer? Because sometimes people do nice things, like putting an item back where it goes. But why would they do that? I don't understand. I'm sure you don't, Karen. I'm sure you don't. Why won't you let my kids harass your pets? You're so selfish. The events of this post happened in the spring of 2018. My boyfriend and I went to his parents' place to spend the weekend, and we took our pets with us, my cat and my 2 dogs, and his cat and dog. We were just sitting around chatting, laughing with his parents and sister, when boyfriend's cousin came over unannounced with her 3 kids in tow. This was the second or third time I was meeting this woman, and the first time I was around her kids. Boyfriend's mom asked cousin if everything was okay. She just smiled and said, "Oh, my husband will be out of town for the weekend, so I thought I'd come over here with the kids. They were getting bored." I suppose it didn't cross her mind to call first. Then she saw me and commented, "Oh, I see your new girlfriend is here too." Boyfriend's parents tried to introduce me to her kids. I'm guessing between the ages of 6 and 10 at the time, but they just ran off to watch TV. That's fine, no biggie. We all tried to make small talk, even as the television was turned on at a deafening volume. My boyfriend's dad had to tell them to turn it down. After we had had lunch is when trouble started. My dog and cat had been asleep when cousin and her kid came in, but now they were up and having a little snack and were noticed by the said kids. They instantly demanded that they be allowed to play with them. Now, my pets are not used to being around kids, and I didn't want them to be harassed, so of course I said no. But apparently, these kids had never heard the word no before. The oldest one, a boy, kept trying to pick up my cat, who jumped up on my lap for protection. The middle one, a girl, tried to grab one of my dog's ear, and the youngest, a boy, tried to climb on my other dog's back. All of this happened within a span of no more than 5 seconds. I decided to raise my voice a little and told them to leave my pets alone. They looked shocked, and the youngest one began to cry. The others, boyfriend, his parents, his sister, and cousin, were in the next room and came running when they heard the commotion. The kid who was crying went bawling to his mommy and told her how I was being mean. The other two said they wanted to play with the dogs and cat, and I wouldn't let them. Cousin decided to get in my face and asked how dare I yell at her kids. I told her to calm down and that she needed to teach her kids some manners and how to interact with animals, and told her what her precious angels had been doing. She didn't think her kids' behavior was problematic because that's what kids do. She then proceeded to yell at me about how awful and rude I was being. This is when my boyfriend jumped in. He made her back off with a stern, "Do not raise your voice at her ever again." Cousin has always been a bit intimidated by my boyfriend, and this shut her up. Boyfriend's parents and sister backed us up and told Cousin she should teach her kids to be kind to animals. From the way they were talking, and as my boyfriend told me later on, this wasn't the first time Cousin's kids had attacked someone's pet. My boyfriend's sister's dog at the time was really old, and his parents had gotten a puppy a few months earlier. The kids had been told, in no uncertain terms, that they were not to go near them. The rest of the weekend was a mix of fun and awkwardness. The awkwardness was due to boyfriend's cousin, who made it a point to stare daggers at me and my pets. Thankfully, boyfriend's parents' house is enormous, and our room and cousins' and kids' room was on different floors, so we mostly just interacted with them during meals. Boyfriend's parents have a separate room for pets. It has several beds, toys, cat trees, etc. that family members' pets can use. During our stay, all of our cats and dogs would hang out in this room, and cousin's kids were banned from it. Boyfriend's cousin complained several times that it was such a waste to use such a large room for pets, and that it should have been a kid's room so her spawn could play in it, even though her kids had infested the rest of the house. I remember thinking, what a Karen. Over the years, this woman has lived up to this name. Why is it so hard for some people to respect others' pets? Here's the way I see it, Mr. Reddit. If you don't want my kids playing with your pets, keep them at home. Once you bring them out into the public, you have no say in what my kids do to them. Karen, that literally makes zero sense. It would if you had respect for others, Mr. Reddit. You have no right to tell me what my kids can or cannot do. Entitled mom said I need to give her kid my place in line that I've waited for an hour. So a bit of context. I'm 14 and I've never had a Karen situation before until this happened last summer when I was 13, and I go with my cousins and uncle to a Cedar Point every year, which is a theme park sort of thing. But anyway, here you go. Enjoy. Cast. We've got Entitled Mom. We've got her cool kid. We've got me. We've got my epic uncle. We've got my cousins 1, 2, and 3. We've got my aunt and security. So we went to a giant roller coaster, and the wait is an hour long. We all wanted to ride it, so we waited, and we had a lot of fun playing games with each other. And the kid behind us was pretty cool, and he showed us some other games. I think he was like 11, but still cool. Then we got up to the front. We were next up in line, and then Entitled Mom said this. "Excuse me, can we go in front of you? My kid really wants to go on this ride." Cool kid. "No, Mom, they're in front of us. They are next." "Be quiet, cool kid. We will be next." Uncle. "Sorry, but we've been waiting for an hour for this. But you're next, so I think you're good." "Excuse me, I am older than you, and I deserve this more. My kid does too. He has a terrible sickness." Uncle. "Ma'am, please stop. I'm a doctor." And he is. "Tell me his symptoms so I know what it is." By this point, me and my cousins were wondering why the ride was taking so long. It had broke, but they said it would be back up in 5 minutes, so we had to suffer through more of this. Entitled Mom. "Well, he's coughing and sneezing and other stuff." Cool kid. "Mom, stop. Let these people be." This is where crap gets crazy. I kid you not, she slaps, and my uncle then picks up the kid and puts him beside him. Uncle. "Ma'am, why did you do that?" "He talked back, so I punished him." I look over and the kid just has tears streaming down his face. By now, the ride attendants came over with security and asked what happened. Entitled Mom. Oh, thank God you're here. This man assaulted me. Please take him away. Security. What? No, I saw what happened. Now you come with me. No, we have waited an hour for this ride. We are going on it. Security. Ma'am, stop. You will have to come with us. Your kid can go on the ride if it's okay with these people. No, I will go with him. Me. Hey, I can go with him if that's okay. Security. That would be good, but an adult must be with him. Uncle. Me and nephew will go with him. Security. That is fine. Come on, ma'am. Let's go. So we went on the ride, and I think Cool Kid enjoyed it, as he was smiling after. The entitled mom was taken to the police station after. The kid's dad took him to his house. They were divorced, and my uncle and him were both doctors, so they talked for a bit. He was nice. The rest of the day was great, and the cool kid and his dad were let back into the park, and we hung out for a bit, and my uncle and him are friends now, so good ending, I guess. Do you like roller coasters, Karen? They're okay, but the best part is cutting people in the line. You really enjoy cutting in line more than the ride itself? Of course I do, because I deserve it. Well, you know what I enjoy, Karen? What? Reminding my viewers to smash that like button. Oh, you're getting good at that. Teacher kicked me out of assembly and, inadvertently, gave me a year-long recess. So, a brief backstory. They're not really crucial to the plot, but it paints a nice background. Any of those that read the story about my evil stepmother know that by the age 14, I was living alone in my father's house and making a pretty comfortable living renting out his rooms to students. Therefore, needless to say, for me, high school was a blast. Now, I'm not going to lie and say I was a good student. I was anything but. I mean, I never drank or smoked, but I skipped class almost more often than I attended. When I rarely did show my face, I'd often just go sit in any class that I felt like, whether I took the subject or not. Sometimes I'd just go to school for recess and go home again after. I was really living the dream of any B-average student. What's more, I hardly ever got in trouble. Even when I got caught, the teachers would kinda just brush it off and let me get away without so much as a slap on the wrist. Most of the teachers either loved me or had long since realized there really was nothing that could be done about me, so they mostly just humored my antics. There was, however, one teacher that saw through my charms. He was the first language teacher. Never my favorite or anything, but I truly held no ill will towards him. In fact, I kinda respected him for being the only one that actually bothered calling me out on all my crap. Although this seldom did any good, because whenever he threatened to call my parents, obnoxious kid that I was, I would just ask him, which parent? My mother is in heaven. Are my father somewhere in Africa? If you manage to reach either of them, could you please ask them to check in once in a while? And this would kinda be the end of the conversation, because as arrogant as I was about it, my argument wasn't untrue. On to the day of the actual story. I was in my senior year and still attending classes on an off and on basis, but attending more than I did in the past. I wasn't trying to change my ways or anything, but I was in the process of putting together a 4-hour-long video of our high school years and realized I had skipped so much that year that I hardly had enough footage to use for that segment. On this particular day though, I had picked the wrong day to attend and ended up having to attend assembly. This did not sit well with me, as I had a personal gripe against our school principal for something that had happened in my sister's senior year, and therefore I refused to show him any kind of respect. He later got canned for having an affair with the PE teacher, so karma, but I digress. Now, as arrogant as I was, I do maintain that I wasn't actually talking as loud as the language teacher accused me of, but I will openly admit that I wasn't paying any attention to the principal's speech, because I hadn't done so in 4 years, and definitely wouldn't have done so that day. So maybe I was, who knows. He wasn't an unfair teacher or anything. Nonetheless, the language teacher pulled me out of assembly and forced me to go stand outside. So I stand there waiting. Several teachers pass me. One asks why I'm not inside. I answer that the language teacher kicked me out. They say, "Oh, okay," and continue about their business. Later, the assembly ends, the students exit, and I'm kinda standing there waiting to be called to the office or just for some kind of consequence, but nada, nothing, zilch. So I walk back to class thinking, that was awesome. Cue the malicious compliance. So the next week rolls around. I decide to attend school that day. Assembly time comes. The other students enter. I hang back, and when the doors close, I'm still outside. I hang around again. Later, a passing teacher asks why I'm not inside. I once more answer that the language teacher sent me out, and she again walks away without saying another word. The next week, I do the same thing, but this time, instead of hanging out where the teacher told me, I just take a leisurely stroll outside, getting fresh air and an extra long recess while the other students are stuck inside that boring assembly. The week after, I invited a friend to try it out with me. He agreed, and when the bell rang for assembly, we both just hung back while the other students entered the building. So now I actually had company for this extra long recess. This was like the best discovery ever. Needless to say, I never set foot inside the assembly hall again. I wish I could say the same for my friend, but after 2 weeks he had grown paranoid and started attending again. Chicken. I would have loved to have ended this story by saying that the language teacher eventually caught me and I could have told him that he was the one that sent me out, but that moment never happened. Even though I was in the wrong and I knew it, I still would have loved that argument. Did any of you guys ever skip class when you were in school? Please let me know in the comments. I skipped all the time and still got straight A's in all my classes. How did you get straight A's if you were never even there? My parents were friends with board members. A new teacher once threatened to fail me for a project that I never turned in. He was fired the next day. Wow, sounds like you were quite the student, eh? The teachers must have loved you. Of course they did. I mean, who doesn't? Entitled Grandma Gets $30,000 Stolen from Her. Hi everyone, I posted the Entitled Mom Takes a $5 Tip from an ice cream shop story. Thank you Mr. Reddit for reading it. Made my week and a little update. My mom has gotten so much more kind and understanding of people. She's learned her lesson and she tips now. In that post, I mentioned an entitled grandmother. This is about her. The last words I ever heard from her in person was, "Okay, when you two get older, make sure you marry someone with a lot of money." She's obsessed with money. I have no doubt she would sell her soul, grandchildren, and children to the devil for it. Anyways, I was not in Cali during the events of this story and learned it from my aunt. So when I was in middle school, my mom had to come up to the Midwest to help my dad after a work-related accident. He's all better now. At the time, my cousin and I were the same age, but she was very flirtatious around boys. I've always been more shy and quiet, while she's been an extrovert with tons of friends. We're yin and yang to each other. At the time, she was dating some bad boy. I knew nothing about him or his friends until this incident. For a little context, when my cousin and I were little, we played in my grandma's room a lot. Their headboard of the bed was drawers, and in the middle was a drawer we could never open. This will be important later, and I have no idea how she and her husband slept in that bed. I don't know how much information my cousin told them about my grandma's home, but her boyfriend at the time and 2 of his friends broke in. They stole a bunch of stuff. Then they got to the drawer my cousin and I couldn't open as kids. I'm not sure how they got it open, but apparently behind the drawer was a safe that had $30,000 worth of stuff in there. I've never seen inside the safe. No one in our family knew it existed except for her. So if you want to just imagine, it's full of gold and jewels. We only found out after my grandmother came home and found the place looted. Apparently, the kids pawned everything at a pawn shop in the town, and the cops found them soon after. I don't know what became of the stuff in the safe, but apparently it was never found to my knowledge. Since the robbers were minors, they were sentenced to juvenile detention center. I think the longest sentence out of the 3 was a year. When my mom and I found out, we were angry at grandma, and so was my aunt. There had been times in the past where my aunt and mom had struggled financially and could have used just a little money. But here, their mom was hoarding $30,000 that she could have used to help her daughters, but she didn't. And no, my cousin wasn't involved in the robbery. She had a bad boyfriend who did a bad thing, but it wasn't her fault. Anyways, I'm not sad this happened to her. I like to believe it's karma because of the rude way she treats not only other people, but her own family. Entitled Mom Thinks I'm Faking My Disorder to Get Attention. First of all, I'm diagnosed to autism and ADHD. To all who don't know what ADHD is, it's Attention Deficit Hyperactivity Disorder. So I am distracted very easily, get emotional very fast, and do moves or make sounds I actually didn't want to make. Just to clarify that. Onto the story. It happened a couple of years ago. I was like 15. My mom sent me to the grocery store to grab some things because she was a little busy at home with her work. She works online for a designer company. So I grabbed a bag and went on my way to the store. At this time, I sometimes flinch and move my left shoulder very fast. As I said, I can't control or stop it, but me and my family were used to it because I've had those things since I was 4 or so. On my way to the store, I walked past a playground I never set foot on because I just moved here a few months ago. The playground was empty except for a mother and her kid. This is where entitled mom comes in. To clarify, we've got entitled mom, we've got me, we've got the innocent kid. So I walked past the playground where the entitled mom and her poor kid were playing. Well, innocent kid was. She was standing a bit away from her phone. As soon as she saw me making my shoulder and head move, she looked terrified and walked straight up to me. Entitled mom. Excuse me? Yeah, she was shouting, even though she was like 5 meters away from me. Me. Yeah, can I help you? At this point, I got super nervous because ADHD and talking to strangers is really difficult to me. I tried to seem as normal as possible, but if I'm nervous, the moves I make are always getting more intense, which wasn't really helpful in this situation. Entitled mom. Hey you, stop making those scary moves. You are terrifying my baby. She's pointing towards her kid, who's not even noticing his mom is somewhere else. Me. What do you mean? I can't stop that. Stop lying. My poor baby doesn't want idiots, not the word she used, near him and his mom. The kid was like 5. And of course, you can stop doing that. That looks terrible. Me. Wait, I can explain that. I was really trying to keep my voice calm. I have this syndrome, so my body parts move on their own sometimes. It's called I said stop lying. You just do those creepy moves to get attention. Attention of who? We were the only ones here, but whatever. If you don't stop, I will make you stop on my own. Now I was really annoyed and upset with her, but I still tried to be nice and calm. Me. I'm really sorry, lady, but this is called ADHD, and there are indeed people out here who have this disorder. This is only human, and you can't just say, she interrupted me again. Who do you think you are? You can't talk like that to a grown adult. Are you even old enough to be left alone? I don't think I looked that young, but okay. And I'd say, who's leaving their kid alone back there, huh? Me. Of course, but she didn't even let me speak. Wait till your parents hear about this. You're harassing me and traumatizing my kid. My move went faster and more often because I became nervous. I walked a few steps away from her. And stop doing that. I bet you're on drugs. I will talk to your parents. Where do you live? You better tell me. I am an adult, and your parents surely told you to respect the adults. I tried to stay polite, but I couldn't hold it back. Me, screaming. No! I'm not going to tell you where I live, and stop being such a jerk. That's all BS. I'm old enough to know what I'm doing, so leave me the heck alone. She was really confused from me talking like that to her. What? She instantly came back to her role. How dare you talk like that to an adult? She used the excuse very often of being an adult. Now stop that! She steps forward and grabs my arm very tight so I couldn't move it. I was shocked for a second and tried to get out of her grip. That only made her hold on tighter with both hands, screaming at me for what a jerk I was. It really hurt me and made me feel very nervous. I didn't know what I was doing, but I think I did this out of instinct or reflex. I literally grabbed her face with my flat hand and pushed her head back. She let go of me and stumbled back. Before she could say anything, I kicked dirt on her. Sorry, lady, I didn't mean to do that. I just did it. And I ran home as fast as I could. She shouted, I'm going to call the police. You will hear from me and my lawyer, you little jerk. Actually, I never heard from her again. She didn't follow me or call the police. I just have scars left on my arm from her nails, which make me remember this story. I didn't get the groceries this day and for the next few months. My mom didn't let me go near that playground for a few months. She didn't even have to do that. It wasn't my plan to go there anyways. The entitled mom wasn't seen there again, I don't think. We all know Karens do some horrible things, but accusing someone of faking their disorder to get attention? That's gotta be one of the worst we've read about so far. Honestly, I'm disappointed in my fellow Karens right now. Have you or anyone you know ever been accused of faking your disorder to get attention? If that were to happen to you, how would it make you feel? Please let us know in the comments below. Entitled Dad wants me fired for caring about the safety of his son. The cast. We've got me. We've got Entitled Dad. We've got Entitled Kid, who knows my boss. we'll call ADM, Assistant Duty Manager. My other boss, who we'll call DM, Duty Manager. And my coworker/boss, I'll explain the hierarchy in a minute, who we'll call Rice, because she always ate rice in the break room. So I'm a lifeguard at a leisure center, and pretty much everyone who works there except the DMs are in the 16 to 22 age bracket. At the time, I was 17, Rice was 18, and Assistant Duty Manager was 22. Duty Manager was in his 30s. I promise, this is important. Little bit of important info, because most of us are so young, it makes people feel like they're allowed to talk down to us and play the respect your elders or listen to me because I'm older than you card. I had this more often than others because at the age of 17, I looked 14. So to the actual story. Rice and I were on poolside, and there was a session on where we get out all the large floats out, large enough for an adult to starfish on them. During the summer, this happened every day at the same 1-hour slot. One of the main rules about this session, due to the danger of it, is no standing on floats. It's extremely hard to balance on them, so people always fall off and could land on another person or on the side of the pool, etc. This is also the most commonly broken rule. So entitled dad and entitled kid turn up and walk straight to the deep end. I'm in the high lifeguard chair and Rice is patrolling, so they're right next to/under me. Entitled dad tells entitled kid to dive in. I overhear and tell them not to. Entitled dad kicks up a fuss when something like this. Entitled dad, go on, dive in. Me, sorry, there's no diving here. Why not? Well, it's dangerous, and if not done correctly, he could seriously injure himself. He's just a kid. Let him do what he wants. You're too young to do anything about it, and if he gets hurt, it's my responsibility. Me, I'm sorry, I can't let that happen. And no, my job is to literally make sure everyone is kept safe, and if everyone is not, then it's my fault and my responsibility. If he dives in, that's your second warning. Second? For heck's sake, we just got here. Me, your first was for being rude to me. I felt super cool for this bit. He scoffed and entitled kid dived in. I said to him, that's two. About 10 minutes go by and they're using a large float and the kid starts trying to stand on it. I blow my whistle. Whenever one of us has to use the whistle, the whole pool turns and looks. This happened. Everyone turned except entitled kid and entitled dad. They obviously knew they were doing something wrong. I blew again, same thing happens. But by this point, the kid has stood up again and is now facing me. So I just looked at him and said loudly but calmly, don't stand on the floats. Normally, the third time we have to talk to someone, we kick them out. But I felt that would be a little harsh, so I decided that if I had to talk to them one more time, I'd kick them out. And that came faster than I thought. Entitled kid starts crying. Entitled dad death stares at me for like 5 minutes before he gets out and approaches me. How dare you shout at my son like that? He's just a kid. You should be fired. You need to rethink your life. You're shouting at a 7-year-old. I look over at Rice, who's laughing her butt off, making it harder for me to try not to laugh. Entitled dad, I'm gonna go complain to your boss. I'm a loyal customer here. I can get you fired. I cut him off. Me, how dare you break the rules that it's my job to enforce and be so rude to me when I'm just looking out for your kid's safety? If we let him do whatever he wants, then he'd be on a stretcher in an ambulance by now. I've had enough of your crap. Please go get changed and leave the building. I'll get you fired. Who's your boss? So since I have the pick between ADM, DM, and Rice, I know full well which option is gonna annoy him the most, so I direct him to Rice. Entitled dad, aren't there any adults here? Walks over to Rice. Who's your boss? Rice directs him to assistant duty manager, who's still too young for him to treat with respect, so she gets duty manager to deal with him. Entitled dad gives him some long speech about how I was so rude and aggressive towards him and threatened him and he wants me fired. And if I'm not fired, he won't come back again. Duty manager agrees just to get rid of him. They were still talking by the time Rice and I were off poolside. Duty manager came into the staff room where assistant duty manager, Rice, and I were all waiting. Duty manager, never wanted to punch a jerk so much in my life. We all still laugh about it to this day. Speaking of pools, summer is almost here. How many of you are planning on hanging out at the pool? Oh, I love the pool. My favorite part is that I can go to the bathroom in it without getting out. Jerk thinks it's funny to yank out mailboxes. My dad makes him pay. Disclaimer: this happened a long time ago, but still makes me giggle to this day. So way back in the day, mid-90s or so, my family lived in a log cabin on 10 acres of land in a rural area 10 minutes or so out of town. It wasn't totally the sticks, but you could definitely hear banjo music in the background sometimes. At the end of our nearly 1/4 mile long driveway was one of those roads that was also technically a state highway. In the AM, I'd trudge down to wait for the bus. When I got home, I'd grab the mail and carry it back. Until one Monday morning when I went out and noticed the mailbox was gone. On closer inspection, looked like it had been ripped out of the ground. Dad was obviously not pleased. He went to talk with the county sheriff, who happened to live a mile down the road. Turns out it had been happening up and down the road for months. Someone was tossing a chain over mailboxes and yanking them out with their vehicle. He suspected a guy down the road with his great big lifted 4-wheel drive truck, but couldn't prove anything. Usually happened on Saturday and Sunday nights, with people finding out in the morning. Also seems the nicer the mailbox, the bigger a target, and many had been hit multiple times. People had tried digging deeper, using more durable wood, etc. This guy just took it as a challenge and ripped them out again. Soft, sandy ground, and his truck was a monster. Well, Dad said, challenge accepted. A bit about my father. He's a steelworker with an engineering background and graduate degree. Built like a bear with forearms the size of legs. Most people looking at him would never think this monster of a man is also so brilliant, but he is. The calm, cool type that almost never loses his temper. But wrong him, and God help you. So Dad goes to Lowe's and buys the fanciest, prettiest mailbox they sell. He then proceeds to install it on top of an 8-foot long cylinder of 3-inch diameter hardened tool steel. But he wasn't done there. After digging down with post holers and dropping it in, he then filled it with quickset concrete. To really sell it, he used some strips of 1/2-inch wood to cover the steel core of his now indestructible mailbox of doom. Primed and painted them so it looked like a standard 4-inch post, and even had my mom decorate it with flowers and such. He wanted it to be as tempting of a target as possible. Didn't even take a week. I went out for school in the morning and found the mailbox right where it should be. Attached to it was 30 feet of chain and an entire hitch assembly, ripped right off of the truck's frame, sheared the bolts. It was marvelous to behold. Sheriff gets called over, dies laughing when he sees it. He went to the house of the guy that was suspected and sure enough verified the damage to his truck matched. Fun fact, messing with a mailbox is a federal crime, as in you go to federal prison, not those cushy state places. Dad was unofficially rewarded by the sheriff's department with a few cases of beer and some venison. And after that, every deputy in town would flash him a thumbs up whenever they saw him. Well, it sounds like that guy had to learn his lesson the hard way. Honestly, it was silly of him to use the truck. He should have just used a baseball bat to swing at it while driving by. That's how my son does it anyway. No, you can't open that without buying it. I've mentioned before that I worked at a toy store. I specifically worked in electronics for selling video games, systems, and whatnot. A popular item at the time was the new Nintendo DSi XL. One day, I had an elderly customer and who I presumed was his wife and daughter in tow. They approached my counter. My guess is that his daughter had a kid and was trying to help him purchase a present from Grandpa. Him. Let me see one of those things. Points at the DSi XL. Me. Oh, sure thing. I opened the glass cabinet and handed him the box. We had a lot of rules when letting people see electronics to ensure theft and tampering wasn't an issue, mostly for when taking stuff out of the case. We were to let them only see one item from the case at a time, even if it was a group, and watch them while they handled it, asking other customers to wait until we were done serving the customer we were with. Note, I did have someone immediately take off running out of the store the second I handed them one before, so I watched customers like a hawk after that. The man turned the box over in his hands twice and then immediately proceeded to try to take the tape off to open it. Me, quickly. Sir, you can't open that here. You have to purchase it if you want to open it. Him, angrily and loudly. Well, why not? Me, we don't sell items in the store that have been opened before. It's to ensure that the item hasn't been tampered with. Even when something is returned, it doesn't go back on our shelves. It goes back to the manufacturer. So if you open it, I can't sell it, even if you'd wanted to buy it, because then it will have already been opened. Him. Well, how do I know there's not a bunch of crap in the box? Me. There's not. If there somehow is, you can return it after you've bought it. If you're that worried about it, you can purchase it and open it here in front of me. If there's anything in that box other than what you paid for, I'll take you to returns and get your money back before you leave the store. By this point, I had taken the item back from him to make sure he didn't try to continue. Luckily, the packaging was still intact. Him. I used to work in one of those factories. I know they won't hesitate to put a bunch of junk in these boxes. At this point, I'm thinking, this says a lot more about your integrity than it does mine, but I keep that to myself. Me. I'm sorry, but I can't let you open this box. You can purchase it and then open it if you like, or choose to purchase it elsewhere. Him. Forget it. I don't want it anymore. Then they left, and I never saw them come back. Do any of you guys like to open up the package before you buy something? Oh, I always do. I won't buy anything without opening it first. Sometimes I just walk around the store opening things and leaving them there for fun. And you don't think that's inconsiderate at all? I don't know what that word means. Can't be visibly doing nothing. It affects employees' morale. No problem. My buddy and I were hired to be a glorified help desk support handholders for a special project. Senior management at a large corporation had their laptops upgraded, including new software they had never used and major upgrades of software they had previously used. We are talking maybe 20 people spread across 3 buildings downtown, all within walking distance of each other. My job was to sit in an office and take calls for any issue, and I mean any issue that pops into their head. The only thing more entitled than senior management are their admin people. My buddy's job was to actually go to their desk and hold their hand with whatever issue they had. Oh, and read the manual was not part of the support plan. He was great at it. After the first couple of weeks, things settled down and we received very few calls. So my buddy was sitting at some desk doing nothing. After a few days, one of the admin assistants complained that he was doing nothing, bad influence on those around him. We asked for a different desk, but none was to be found. He tried looking busy, writing up documentation. The same person complained, saying his job is support. So if he is not supporting, everyone knows he is doing nothing, and that looks bad. Bad for morale. What the heck? He technically doesn't even work for your company. So I realized that our service level agreement said we had to respond within 30 minutes. It was always much less, especially if he was in the building. So I told my buddy to buzz off, go shopping, sit in Starbucks and read the paper. No one but me knew where my buddy was at any time, and I was the only one who dispatched him. So I said to my buddy, do whatever you want, as long as you drop what you're doing and be at the person's desk within 30 minutes. And if they called for help, occasionally they would ask how long it would take. I would say, our SLA is 30 minutes. He will be there before then. And sometimes they would say, isn't he in the building? And whatever building the person was calling from, I would say he is in the other building furthest from them. And they would never check with anyone at the other building. They really had no way of knowing where he was, only I did. That was my job. So my buddy went to the movies, went clothes and shoe shopping, sat in the park, etc. The busybody admin assistant called about a problem one day and said, I never see him at his desk anymore. Where is he? I said, he is much busier now. His morale, and I'm sure your staff's morale, must be much better now. No one ever found out about our malicious compliance. The managers he helped loved him and wanted him to stay on. He said no until they tripled what he was making. About a year later, he was made a manager, and about 6 months after that, he had that admin assistant fired. The morale really improved around there after that. I know the rules better than you. I'm calling my lawyer. So, I am a director of a daycare. I've been the director for the last 8 years. This week, I've been dealing with an entitled mom who thinks she knows how to do my job better than I do. Her first problem was that we require all kids to be fully vaccinated, and she didn't want to vaccinate hers. I told her she could find care somewhere else. She complained that I was violating her personal beliefs and breaking the law. No, I'm not. We have the right to turn away personal exemption cases. She decided she would vaccinate, but only because I was forcing her to. Her second problem was that she didn't want to do the legwork to get tuition assistance from the state. She wants me to email DWS all her info and her kid's start date. I told her we don't do it that way. She needs to contact DWS to tell them her kid is attending, and then they will contact us to verify. She has yet to call them, but calls me every day, wondering why I haven't emailed DWS yet. Every day I tell her she needs to contact them. She gets mad and says that it's my job to email them. We've had this conversation every day this week. Her third problem just started last night. She now believes that she is making too much money to qualify for tuition assistance and wants her non-refundable registration fee refunded. I told her it's not refundable. She told me that I have to return it because her daughter might not be starting since I didn't do my job and contact the state. I reminded her it's her responsibility, and the contract she signed states the fee is not refundable. She told me I was reading the contract wrong. She said she will be talking to her lawyer about me breaking company rules and that I'm just picking on her because of her vaccination beliefs. I told her to be my guest and I would be happy to talk to her lawyer about everything. She then told me we weren't good enough to take care of her angel and hung up on me. I'm glad I only had to deal with her for a week, but even a week was far too much. Edit to add. Her kid never actually attended because she never called DWS and got tuition assistance sent over to us. You know, Karen, your lawyer must really love you. You've always got new jobs for him.
Actually, I get the sense he doesn't like me and thinks I'm a complete idiot.
Well, gee, I wonder what could cause him to think something like that. Cheeseburgers can be very confusing. I work at a very large franchise fast food restaurant, and while most customers have no problem with their order, we get the occasional one that is baffled by the simplest of things. Take this one woman who wanted a hamburger. What she actually ordered was a cheeseburger, no cheese. I don't know how things are at other burger selling joints, but literally the only difference between a cheeseburger and a hamburger where I work is the cheese. Otherwise, they're identical. They have the exact same ingredients, so I put through a hamburger. If I put through a cheeseburger, no cheese, the kitchen would think I've lost it, and it doesn't, or shouldn't, make any difference to the customer. So her hamburger comes out and a wrapper that says hamburger. She takes it, pauses, and then turns back to me. Lady.
Sorry, but I ordered a cheeseburger, no cheese.
Me. Yes, sorry. A cheeseburger with no cheese is exactly the same as a hamburger, so I just put it through a hamburger.
I ordered a cheeseburger though, and the wrapper says hamburger.
Me. It's exactly the same though. The only difference between a cheeseburger and a hamburger is the cheese. Lady.
But this is not what I ordered.
Me. You wanted a cheeseburger, correct?
Yes.
But without the cheese, correct?
Yes.
Me, trying to be as polite as possible. Then that's what this is. A cheeseburger without the cheese is a hamburger. There's literally no difference. Lady.
But I didn't order a hamburger. I ordered a cheeseburger, no cheese.
Now I'm smiling through gritted teeth and have resigned myself to her stupidity. Me. 1 second and I'll just go change that for you. I literally went into the kitchen and got them to put the hamburger into a wrapper that said cheeseburger and whack a label on that said no cheese. Lady.
Thank you very much, dear.
And she took the hamburger disguised as a cheeseburger, no cheese, and went on her merry way. Now, anytime a customer wants a cheeseburger, no cheese, we have to explain to them why the label says something else. Most of them get it, but give us really weird looks, as if we're stupid, or maybe they think we think they're stupid. Speaking of cheeseburgers, what's your favorite place to get cheeseburgers from? Please let me know in the comments below. I'd have to say mine is McDonald's.
Too bad they can never get your order right. Fortunately, all it takes is one call to the manager to get them fired.
Entitled kid hurts my pet pig, and mom kicks out his entitled family. This happened when I was 12 or 13. I had a pet pig who was very pink and very small, and I named him after a popular pork-flavored snack we have here in the Philippines called Marty's Cracklins. So I named him Marty, and he was very adorable, and he was only a baby pig at the time. He also had no other pigs to call family. I also taught him a lot of tricks. I kept him in a large cage just outside my room's window. I always took care of him, feeding him, cleaning his cage, and washing him, and always singing him my favorite song whenever I got a chance. One day, while I was washing Marty's cage while Marty stood patiently beside me, I hear new voices and a small truck park in front of the empty apartment that my parents put up so other people could rent it. The truck stopped and my parents walked over to greet the people. They seemed nice at first. As soon as the truck stopped, 2 kids, one boy around my age and a girl who was about 7, stepped out and looked around for a bit. They walked by me and saw Marty. The girl squealed in delight and tried to grab Marty, and Marty immediately squeezed by me so he could hide in the cage. I tell the girl to be quiet and tell her that Marty is not comfortable around strangers. She pouts and the boy just drags her back to their family. I glared at their backs for scaring Marty, and I turned my attention towards my best friend who was dirty inside a clean cage. I usher Marty to come out and I cleaned him and fed him and sang him several songs, including my favorite. Days passed and I kept close to Marty as the girl and the boy bothered him and forced him to play with them. I told my parents about this and they go over to the kids' parents and set them off with a warning. The parents understood, but the next day, the jerk still came back. Clearly, their parents did not care, even when Dad repeated the warning for a few times when the kids stepped past a line. A joyful day comes when some of my mom's friends from Davao came. They invited us on a road trip to Baguio, and that means Marty would be left alone. Although I did have some relatives that lived beside our house, they were all very busy, and so are my cousins, because they're either hanging out in a basketball court or in a mall, so Marty would be left alone. I voted to stay, but luckily, one of my cousins, who is such a sweetheart, told me that she'll take care of Marty and that I should just enjoy myself. I thanked her and warned her about the annoying kids, and she told me that she'll keep an eye out for them. We left for Baguio for 3 days, and when I came back, I was very excited to see Marty again. I went inside the house and made him a milk bottle, and I ran to his cage. What I saw made my heart break a bit. I tried to wake Marty, and he woke up. Sad thing is, he looked fatter, and he looked like he was sick, and he walked over to me slowly. I picked him up and comforted him. I tried giving him the bottle, but he moved his head away. I guessed that my cousin fed him already, so I just cradled him like a baby and sang to him. A few minutes or so, my cousin walked to me with a bottle in her hand. I looked at her confused and told her that Marty was still full from the milk she gave him earlier. My cousin said that she hasn't fed Marty yet. Then it dawned on me. The jerks must have done this. Marty was still a baby and he couldn't stomach that much food, and his tummy already looks bloated, and he always took deep breaths rather than normal ones. I personally went over to the jerk's house and told them to stop bothering Marty. The entitled kid stayed silent, and entitled mom spoke up. I'll translate what she said in Tagalog to English.
My kids didn't even go near him. Also, your parents told us to not bother that stinky pig of yours.
This ticked me off a bit, because no one calls Marty stinky other than me. So I told her that if I catch her kids bothering Marty, I'll tell my parents to kick them out. So nightfall came, and I laid on my bed. Outside the window was Marty's cage, and I opened the window and looked below to see him sleeping. I sigh in relief when I saw him sleeping soundly, so I went to sleep. Not even a minute later, I hear a loud, scared squeal. I looked out the window to see the girl, entitled Kid 1, forcefully shoving a milk bottle into Marty's mouth. I told them to stop, and I climbed out my window and tried to pull her off, but entitled Kid 2, the boy around my age, kept pushing me back. I was skinny and a wimp back then, and I couldn't push past him. So I ran to my parents' windows and knocked on it, shouting their names. Dad opened up the window, and I cried out that they're hurting Marty. Dad went out of the house and walked angrily to the entitled kid's house while I tried to push entitled Kid 1 away from Marty, and entitled Kid 2 kept blocking me. By the time the entitled kid's parents came over, the squealing stopped. I saw Marty's face turn lifeless and dull, and I knew that I failed. The girl screeches and cries out that her pet pig died. This angered me, and for once in my life, I punched the jerk blocking me and took Marty and ran down the stone stairs behind our house to our backyard and hid in the trees. I heard my dad yelling at them and demanding them to move out tomorrow or he'll bring this to court. I kept crying and crying. My dad came down to see me, but told me that Marty is safe now. He climbed back up to the house, and I sat still for a while in the darkness. I stood up and went inside a tool shed and grabbed a shovel. and with each time I shoveled a piece of dirt, I kept saying I'm sorry to Marty. I really wished I was stronger, and I kept wishing that he's just playing dead like I taught him to. When the hole was deep enough, I sang my favorite song to my best friend one last time before I buried him. The next day, the entitled kid's family moved out, and we never heard from them again. And for a while, I was depressed and wished I could meet up with Marty again. I have no happy ending. I'm sorry, Marty. My heart really goes out to OP. Losing a pet is extremely difficult, and I can't even imagine if it was because of what some idiot had done to them. Have you ever lost a pet? If so, what was their name? Karen, would you mind giving us a quick PSA about pets?
Never touch or feed pets without their owner's permission.
Entitled mom threatens to get me fired if I don't fix her kids' grades. Background: I teach labs at a university level. I have a master's degree, and all the labs I teach are for engineers. We finished this course on Thursday, and I gave out the grades, submitted the course file, and that was that. I was pretty comfortable with the grades I gave. Given the situation, I didn't do an exam, but a project. Had dropped the lowest and graded while closing both eyes. Today at 2:13 a.m., my phone rings. I never have received a call that late, and in my haze to wake up, I thought someone had died or something, so I picked up in a rush, and then the following conversation happened. We've got entitled mom, and we've got me, the person who regrets being nice. Me: what's going on? Is everything okay? Entitled mom:
Hi, is this Dr. Barron?
Me: no, sorry, I believe you have the wrong number. I think you meant to call my brother. Note: my brother is a medical doctor. I am a master's student, not a PhD student. I do not hold the doctor title. Entitled mom:
No, this is the right number. You taught my kid this semester and gave him a B-.
Me: oh, sorry, I got confused with being called a doctor. Yes, I taught your kid and he earned a B-. Excuse me, but how did you get my number?
That doesn't matter. I want you to fix the grade to an A. My kid worked hard, and you didn't grade him fairly. So I thought I'd be nice and give you an opportunity to fix it before I escalate.
Me: I will not discuss grades with you. Also, who calls at 2 a.m.? Besides, please contact the department chair for inquiries. Kindly don't contact me again.
Listen to me. If you don't fix the grade, I'll report you to the school for harassing my kid.
Me: what? Ah, so I got your attention, eh?
Yeah, you heard me. I'll report you for harassing my kid.
Me: you do realize we were in lockdown this entire time, and I have never been physically in the same place throughout this time, right?
Oh, I know that. I'm not stupid.
So you're going to make a fake report about me?
Yep, so fix the grade, or I'll have you thrown out of the school. Did you hear me?
You know I record my calls, right?
Forget you. I am reporting you for harassing me and my kid.
She hung up after. I forwarded the recorded call to my master advisor, school dean, and department chair. I explained everything in the email and went to sleep. Haven't heard anything official yet, but my master's advisor texted me that he heard the call and thinks she's insane. They haven't received a report or anything yet. After checking on the kid's work, he deserved a D. If she escalates this, I'll present his work and agree to correct his grade to a D. We'll update if I hear anything. Have any of you guys ever had your mom call the teacher to try to get your grade changed?
You say that like there's something wrong with it.
Entitled mom wants to find a boyfriend for her daughter on her own. The cast: we've got me, we've got cool friend, we've got entitled mom, we've got innocent daughter, maybe she wasn't the nicest, but she wasn't entitled, and we've got the police officer. On to the backstory. Me and my friend, he's older than me, at this time I was 16 and he was 17, are big Dark Souls fans, and we wanted to go to the store to grab some Steam cards. We planned to buy both Dark Souls 3 DLCs and play them together at the same evening. So we went there and bought a €50 card each. We're from Europe. As we bought everything, we headed towards the Starbucks and enjoyed something. I don't remember what I bought. We sat on a bench with our snacks or coffee or whatever. Everything was fine. A few benches further, there was a mother and her daughter, which was like 16, 17, 18. Guessed on her luck. Sorry, I'm bad at guessing ages. We didn't notice them because why should we? A few minutes later, we were done and wanted to go. As the daughter saw that we were about to leave, she stood up and headed towards us. Daughter: Hey, excuse me. Me. Yes? Cool friend. Can we help you? Daughter. Well, I saw you from back there and I thought you looked cute. I was wondering if I could get your number or we could grab a drink sometimes. I looked at cool friend and he looked at me. Cool friend. Which one of us did you mean? I had to laugh. Daughter. Of course, I meant you. She pointed towards cool friend. I stopped laughing. I think I might have just got roasted because of the of course. Cool friend. Oh, I'm sorry. I already have a girlfriend. I'm sorry. He didn't, but I think that's his way to say he's not interested. Daughter. Oh, sorry for interrupting then. She smiled awkwardly and walked back to the bench where her mom was waiting and looking very curious. At this point, the story could have been over, but no. Entitled Mom wants to show us that it's not over yet. She stood up. Her daughter was trying to hold her back. I think she already knew what was going to happen. I guess it's not the first time this has happened to her. My friend watched the whole situation and still stood there with crossed arms. She walked up to him, and this is where this story turns into an r/entitled parents post. Entitled Mom. Hey, excuse me? She was faking a smile. I was wondering why on earth did you just reject my daughter? That's literally what she said. My friend was just looking at her. Cool friend. Well, as I told her, I have a girlfriend, and to be honest, I'm not interested in her. Oh yeah? What does your friend, I bet she didn't say the girl part on purpose, have that my daughter doesn't have? Cool friend. Well, I don't know. I don't know her. I don't even have to know, because I'm really happy now. She was looking confused. Like, how could anyone be happy without her daughter? At this point, her daughter joined and tried to stop her mom. Mom, please stop this. You're embarrassing me. No, I'm not. I know what I'm doing. I just want the best for you. Just like this good-looking young man. Cool friend and me looked at each other. Daughter. Well, whatever. I'm not helping you out then. I'll take the bus home. She walked away and left her mom alone with us. Her mom was looking quiet until she was gone. Cool friend. So, seems like your daughter doesn't want to get my number anymore, and my mind hasn't changed in the past 10 seconds. Are we done now? She turned her head quick and looked in his eyes. Of course we aren't done now. My angel deserves somebody like you, and you should make her happy. Forget this other girl. I was just standing there, like an unimportant side character, so I felt like saying something even though I didn't want to. Me. Miss, you can't just come up and force somebody to love someone else. If he's happy, you can't make him like your daughter. That is not how love works. She never noticed my tics, but she didn't really look at me. She was just focused on cool friend. Glad about that. She totally ignored what I said. Instead, who do you think you are? Didn't you learn to not interrupt when adults are talking? It's happening too often that people think I'm younger than I really am. Me. I'm sorry. Him and I are almost the same age. And didn't you even listen? I want you to leave us alone now. Cool friend. I'd appreciate if you did so, and we can go home now. It's already later than we intended to be. What? No. Being late is so unimportant to the fact that you refused my daughter. Why the heck would you do that? Now give me your number, now. My friend was shaking his head. She came close to him, so only we could hear what she said. She put her hand on his shoulder. Listen here, you just give me your number, and I won't call the police. Or else you will be arrested for harassing a mother and her kid. Did you get all that, you idiots? Her voice was pretty calm now, as if she thought she had already won and her plan was 100% going to work. My friend removes her hand from his shoulder. No, listen, I won't. She was doing what she said, and she did very, very loud. Help! Leave me alone, you jerk! Cool friend was still calm. How did he do that? Everyone else around here is now watching the scene. A shop guard came up and separated us. Then he was asking questions to her that we couldn't hear. I didn't know what she was saying, but she was pointing towards us the whole time. They must have called the cops, because we were watched by another shop guard until the police arrived. Officer. Hello, sir. This woman over here said you two were insulting and trying to assault her. She told us her daughter fled and that you're trying to blame her now. So what is your point of view of the story? Is that true? Cool friend. Huh? That's brave of her. I'm just gonna say, everything she said is a lie. I did absolutely nothing, and my friend did neither. I don't have to say anything because I think you can just check the security cameras in the shop here. That's what they did, and who would have thought? In a nearby bookshop, you can clearly see in the camera footage how my friend didn't even make a real move, and she's calling the cops telling them lies about us. Officer: Ma'am, as you can see, we have to take you with us for a false police alert and harassing 2 innocent people.
What? No, do your job. Arrest them. They did everything.
Officer: Ma'am, as we said, we have proof that the only one doing anything was you. Will you now come with us? We will settle everything if you just do as we please.
No, I can't do anything if the wrong people are blamed.
She looked at us.
Forget you.
Officer and his partner immediately took her and brought them to their car. Before she got into the car, my friend looked at her and said loudly, "I'm single, by the way. Have a nice day." Entitled mom said something that I don't have to mention. We just went home after we apologized for her behavior to the people around us. Well, we had a good laugh after that, especially because we came over an hour late home and we had to tell this story to our parents. I think nobody would believe this if they hadn't been there too. Later on, we started playing our Dark Souls 3 DLCs, and I lost 100 more times than Cool Friend. Have any of you guys ever had your parents try to get you a boyfriend or a girlfriend? I can only imagine how embarrassing that would feel.
There's nothing wrong with that. I'm constantly trying to get girls to date my son.
And has that ever worked?
Not yet, but hopefully soon.
Roommate thought she was sneaky, ended up owing me $400, and got suspended. So this happened my second semester dorming at my college campus. I had met my roommates at orientation, and I could kind of already tell she was going to be a pain in the butt. And I was right about that. I had planned on moving rooms to be closer to some friends the next semester. But let me get to the story that led to my revenge. On our campus, you had to pay for meals using your student ID, which had a certain amount of money on it each semester. You could also use an app that you put your name and ID info into, and it makes it easier to pay. But the name and ID must match it for it to work. Will be important later. Any funds from the fall semester would roll over into the spring, but then at the end of spring it would just expire. Because of this, and because I only ate once or twice a day, I had saved up a ton on my card. My roommate, on the other hand, did not. So I offered to pay for some of her meals from time to time and trade for her picking up the food for us, which involved her using my card twice in person and then she'd return it. Then, one day, I noticed on my app that my card was being charged even when I was not ordering food, and not just a meal, like a meal for several people. This meant that whoever was ordering, I wonder who, either had to have stolen my ID card, which I had in my pocket when I got the charge, or was impersonating my info in the app, which are both big no-nos on my campus. I was quick to put 2 and 2 together and was pretty upset. I was initially going to confront her on it, but decided to formulate a plan instead. That day, I went and ordered a second ID card for $25 to use for later, as it took a couple of weeks to get the new one. I let her charge several things to my card over a good 2 weeks, for her and her friends. And she wasn't very good at hiding it either, as they would come to our dorm room and eat it. While I just screenshotted and sent emails to the support team of the app about the charges, knowing nothing would get done until I contacted someone in person. And one day it got even better. As you can buy groceries with the card off campus as well, she decided to pay for alcohol with my card, which doesn't get pinged as an issue on my card due to me being over 21, but she was only 19. Not sure how she got it, but it was just the thing to finally act on my plan. I put my best sad face on and contacted the head of campus living and head of my dorm about the charges on my account. I dropped some hints that it could be my roommate and mentioned I got a new ID and asked what I should do. I was told to order a new card, and once I got it, to deactivate my current ID and use the new one for purchases now, making my old ID have a balance of $0 and also to ping if someone uses it to buy anything. They also told me they would be visiting my dorm to discuss the issue with my roommate. I accepted that and waited. They sent the confirmation email that they would be visiting, and I just decided to add more fuel to the fire. My roommate was groaning about not having the funds for food in front of me in our dorm. I told her I really couldn't help her as I was running low on funds, and she just kind of laughed it off and left the room to probably go use my old ID. I deactivated my first card right after she left, and surprise, surprise, she used my info to pay. Except when she tried to pay for her and her friends this time, it was declined and it pinged that my ID was used. Campus security was called and she was escorted back to our dorm. Pretty much perfect timing for our meeting with Campus Living. She was scared when they came to the dorm to talk and look through her stuff. On her phone, still logged into the app, was my ID information and name, and in her dorm closet was a half-full bottle of cheap vodka, and on my phone was a screenshot of said unauthorized vodka purchase. In the end, she was forced to pay me back all the funds she used in cash, reported for drinking, which automatically suspends you from Campus Living for at least a year, and would have on her record that she performed identity theft, which I also could have charged her for that out of school. In the end, I got to have my own dorm for the remainder of that semester and even part of the semester after, because it wasn't put as an available room for new dormers. I did get all my money back from her parents, who were so embarrassed and apologized profusely, and when she did eventually come back to campus, no one wanted to dorm with her because they knew she had stolen her roommate's ID. I think in the end, she rented off campus. Nothing better than a thief getting caught. Has anybody ever stolen anything from you? If so, what did you do about it? Please let me know in the comments. Take me out of your group text. Years ago, before chat apps, where you can seamlessly set up a group chat with lots of people were common, group texts were how people communicated when you wanted to reach a lot of people at once and wanted them to see it because no one checked their email regularly. It was not ideal, as depending on people's quality of service, quality of phone, or just how many people were trying to send a text, and Lord forbid a picture at the same time. Text showed up out of order and sometimes took hours for some to receive them. You'd be surprised how much receiving a bunch of texts would drain your battery as well. It was during this time that my partner, then still a friend, was accidentally added to a text group full of 15 or so soccer moms and the coach because whoever set it up mistyped one of the moms' phone numbers. Oh yeah, another drawback of text groups, you had to put in every number by hand if you didn't already have them registered in your phone. It was more of a primitive time. They were quick to bring up that they mistyped a number and that they needed to make another one, this time including the mom that got left out when they mistakenly put in the wrong number. The mistake was acknowledged, but they kept on sending texts like, "It's too hard to make a new one. Just silence your phone. This is a necessary group text for our kids," etc. Oh, another drawback. Man, there were a lot. You couldn't take yourself out of a group text back then, and blocking numbers wasn't an option on all cell phone carriers or plans. My future partner started getting really upset, and their phone kept on ringing throughout the day and didn't know if someone was trying to get a hold of them or if it was the soccer moms. They made their anger known and used some colorful language questioning their intelligence and humanity and demanding that they stop using that group text. Apparently, some of the moms missed the initial text, saying that they were not one of the soccer moms. They responded with, "Do you speak to your son like that? You should be banned from the field. It's okay, coach. Some of us appreciate what you do." This had been going on for 3 days, and the soccer moms kept on using the chat, which has now devolved into calling my partner rude. So they escalated their response. They Googled cat autopsy pictures and started spamming it to the chat. The soccer moms were horrified and threw a fit. "How dare you, you sick jerk. This is harassment," were among the texts sent to the group. Every time one of the moms demanded they stop, all they said was, "Take me out of the group," and only that, followed by more cat autopsy pictures. It lasted a couple of hours, and they admitted later that the group text finally started getting fun, but they seemed to abandon the group text. No idea if they felt starting another one was worth it, but at least they didn't mistakenly put my partner's phone number in. It truly was a more primitive time. I remember group texts and I hated them. "If you have such a problem with group text, just don't look at it." Costco Karen. I work in an office with fairly high security. We have to wear a lanyard that says staff when we're at the office with our picture and name tag attached to it. I tend to be a pretty forgetful person, so I wear mine all the time and only remove it once I get home and put it on a hook beside the door so I know I won't forget it. I also usually go shopping after work. So one day I'm at Costco doing my shopping and I run over to another aisle, and as I realized I got the wrong types of something or other from the frozen section. So I exchange them and I'm walking back towards where my boyfriend is with the cart. Then I hear fingers snapping and a woman calling, "Here, here." I turn around because I'm curious and lock eyes with her, and she gestures me over. I don't recognize her, but I also don't want to be rude, so I go over. She's on her phone. Can I help you? I asked her.
How much is this?
I don't know, I told her, kind of confused as to why she's asking me. She looks at me like I'm an idiot, her eyes bulging out.
I'm on the phone,
she says. I'm just standing there holding my mini quiches or whatever, wondering why she called me over and who she is. I'm also wondering why she's telling me that she's on the phone when I can see that perfectly well. Okay, I tell her, and start turning around to walk away. She starts tutting, which I'm really confused by, and I turn back around. She's looking at me expectantly, and honestly, I've been working all day, and this is confusing the heck out of me, so I just tell myself to ignore her, and I start walking away again. She does a weird tut hissing sound, but I ignore her and keep walking away. She runs up to me with her cart and taps me on the shoulder.
Why aren't you helping me?
She screams at me. Why would I help you? I ask her. I'm genuinely so confused by this entire interaction. She points to my lanyard that says staff, and it finally clicks into place. Oh, I say, I don't work here. I swear, the look on her face, she was horrified. She apologized to me like 6 times, and I was finally able to go back to my boyfriend, where he told me I got the wrong thing from the frozen section again. Oops. Speaking of Costco, where do you guys like to get your groceries? Please let me know.
Costco is okay. I prefer Target.
Are you blind or stupid? Apparently both. First-time poster, long-time reader. English is my second language, so feel free to correct me. On mobile. Hope Mr. Reddit sees this and hope you enjoy. Meet the cast. We've got me, Karen, and the manager. This happened last week, 3rd month into lockdown in my country. Had a long and overall crappy day with events that will be revealed later. I decided to go to a market to get some supplies for the upcoming shift. I had a full day shift that day, and on my phone talking to my superior asking what they need from the store. Went into the chips section and picking up about 4 packets of chips and started to walk away when I heard the infamous throat clearing that can only come from the guardian of heck herself, Karen. Thinking to myself, I can't be this unlucky today. Turning around to a 5'2" woman around 45 years old. Conversation ensues. Me, can I help you?
Yes. Where is this item?
Me, I think it's 2 aisles over.
How could you not know? Why does this store even hire idiots like you?
I'm sorry, but I have to know. Are you blind or stupid by chance?
How dare you call me blind?
Storming off, thinking it was the end of it. Oh, how wrong I was. She came back with a manager in tow, looking smug. She sees me on my phone, so grabs my phone and threw it on the ground. Same phone I'm using to type this out, just with the screen replaced. The manager comes up to me, and realization sets in for him, and he understands how bad the situation is at this point. Me, turning to the manager. Get why I called her blind? Manager, looking at me as his face turns from confusion to containing his laugh. Props to him. He kept professional even when I had a hard time keeping quiet. Ma'am, this man clearly doesn't work here.
Then why is he in a uniform?
Me. Ma'am, take a hard look at me from head to toe and then ask again. Karen, looking at my uniform and face turning from red to as pale as printing paper. Context. My uniform is a dark blue beret, dark blue button-up, dark blue pants, and the piece of resistance, my belt that had my sidearm holster with my sidearms clearly inside, a taser, handcuff holster, and spare magazine holsters all on my belt along with my M4 slung on my neck. I'm an officer who literally got off a tragic case and getting snacks for my teammates. Me. Seeing your reaction, literal gold, if only I could release the body cam footage. I'm going to give you 2 options right now. Pay me back what my phone cost, or I'm going to arrest you for harassment, theft of property, and damages to property. Karen, now realizing what she had done, turned tail and ran. Of course, I had no choice but to chase and tackle her. She was able to get loose for that split second and uses her chance to take a box of cereal, I kid you not, and attacked me, so I tased her and cuffed her. Called in a unit nearby, cause even after handcuffed, she's still fighting back, kicking, headbutting, and even when her ankles were cuffed, she tried to get away like a cartoon caterpillar. Eventually, my partner shows up and uses a boar cuff, a type of cuff that, once done properly, will force the suspect's arms and legs to be bound like natives taking a boar, hence the name, to subdue her, and it took both of us just to get her in the cruiser. Tired of this, I just told my partner to explain her rights to her, and I walked back into the store and got all the things I need, paid, and left. She was a repeat offender, so this event just added to her previous charges. She's booked for court tomorrow. I'll post the results, but I can bet it's going to be guilty on all charges. My mom forced me to let her into my psychiatrist appointment because she was worried what I'd say about her. Background: I'm a 21-year-old on a high amount of meds for epilepsy, and I dropped out of college to deal with my medical issues since I used to have a seizure once a week. I'm currently going to a community college to transfer to a better university in a different major, so I will graduate 2 years later than all my classmates. So I was talking to my psychiatrist on video chat since I couldn't go to the hospital. Since this is a first appointment, he is asking some basic questions like, do you hear voices, or have you had thoughts of self-harm type things? I answer honestly. I mention my mother and family issues, like how my mother and father have been fighting since I was born, and blame me for their deteriorating relationship. Me: oh, and my mom tends to insult me a lot, calling me a failure and names because I'm going to a community college right now. I also have anger issues, and after she screams and calls me swear words and phrases over 40 times in a minute, I counted, I wasn't lying, for more than a minute while I helped her for 2 hours, then slapped me twice hard for stepping on something. I forgot what. So, enraged, I pinched her forehead, tried to lightly slap her cheek, and stormed off. Me, panicking. Wait, please don't tell the police or anyone what I've done. Psychiatrist: it seems like we need to talk again. Don't worry though, we want to help you. We won't tell anyone what you or your mother have done. I mentioned it to my mom, one thing over a 2-hour session, and it was a huge mistake. Mom:
How could you tell them something like that, you narcissist? What's wrong with you?
Me: but I sent you what I said exactly.
You're a liar. Nothing you say is true. You're the last person I would trust.
Me: Mom, I'm sorry, but I don't lie. I tell what I did and what you did no matter what. And they said, Mom.
Don't you dare call me Mom, you dumb idiot. You're lucky to be living with me at 22.
I'm 21.
All your classmates and friends are graduating 2 years before you.
Me: I'm sorry, I won't mention you again. Mom rants and raves.
You never stop talking or starting arguments. You could have gotten me arrested. Well, I'll get you arrested, you jerk. Now make sure I'm in your next appointment, or I won't let you see your psychiatrist.
Me: but, Mom.
Shut up and only talk to them about your anger issues, you useless jerk failure. God, how can you still be talking about your family at 22?
Me: I mean, it's not like
Your brother is 30 and doesn't complain or argue with me.
Me, silent, even though I know that's not true. If my mom insults him when he visits, he will leave the house and go to his apartment immediately. Then, depending on how she acted, come back later. Also, my mom is comparing me to my brother, who is 9 years older with no medical issues, but he lived at home until he was 26 and got his first CS job. Mom insults me for another hour, then is quiet. Edit: my mom and I get along so well for like 2 days, and for 3 days there's nothing really, but 2 days later it's like this. Second edit: thank you for the advice and kindness, everyone. But most of all, I never realized how supportive and caring an online community could be until this post. I really appreciate it. Edit for clarification: next year I'm transferring to an out-of-state university, so she won't have to contact me unless she wants to, which will probably be rarely. But yeah, as long as I deal with her a little longer, next year I'll transfer out of state for the rest of my undergrad. My heart really goes out to OP. Most of us can't really imagine what it would feel like to have parents treat you like this. But unfortunately, it happens all the time. I'm glad that they have their psychiatrist to talk to about it though. Sometimes having someone to talk to about things you're going through makes all the difference. Entitled mom stops an ambulance from getting to a heart attack patient. This happened at the end of last summer, and I wasn't within earshot for most of it, so I can't give great detail as to what exactly was said, but I'll try my best. Background: I work at a summer day camp, and everyone is like a family there. I went to the camp myself from age 6 to 15 before working there. The staff usually are rehired when possible, especially directors, so returning campers see the same faces every year, so some of the younger staff have known the veteran staff for almost our entire lives. That's why it is very common for the camp counselors to have been campers once themselves, like me. This is important to remember, as those involved in this story include both 2 veteran staff and multiple former campers, now counselors, including me. Okay, now to the story. It's the very last day of camp for the summer. All of the campers have said their goodbyes and have left on their respective buses. The only people left are the staff and the kids who are in the aftercare program for kids whose parents either work late or they need to be picked up from camp directly. There's almost no parking, not even enough for staff, so they bus the kids in every day. The staff wrap up their last staff meeting for the season, and we all make our way to the front of camp. One of the counselors, who was I think 2 years older than me, Carter, ran up ahead because the lunch lady, Chris, was about to leave and wanted to say goodbye. As we were rounding the corner, we hear Carter call out for Chris, and she is laying on the ground. Everyone is ushered into the bus that was going to take us to where the staff parking was, while one of the directors calls the ambulance. Carter is in tears. He was especially close to Chris. Not to mention, this is the second veteran staff member to be hospitalized that summer. He tells us that he had just said goodbye and turned to walk away when he glanced back. She was on the ground and not responding. Chris was a bit of a bigger woman, so everyone was worried about if the CPR would be successful, since the only people there were very small build. Thankfully, another vet staff arrived and he was able to take over CPR, which we later discovered, if it wasn't for him, she would have died. So the ambulance is on the way, but the problem was that the road the camp is on is a major road in our city, and it was right during afternoon traffic rush. Not to mention, the street was having construction done, which turned it into a 2-lane street. Then a small car pulls up, and it's a mom looking to pick up her kid. One of the staff is quick to tell her to pull off to the side. The driveway is very narrow and can barely fit one bus at a time. She is understanding and gets out of the way. She even gets out and tries to talk to the staff who are waiting on the bus. I believe she even tried calming some of us down. One of the directors drove a golf cart to go get her kid, so she waited there with us. Enter entitled parent. I'm not 100% sure if she was a Karen or just someone who was a bit dense, but she still nearly caused a woman to lose her life. This big black SUV pulls up, and already she sees that something is off. Being the intelligent person she is, she stops her vehicle in the middle of the driveway and asks what's going on. Again, she is being directed to park off to the side, but she doesn't want to move. The lady just sits there and tells a staff worker that she is there to pick up her kid. Note, Chris collapsed right in front of the entrance to camp, so this woman had a front row view of people performing CPR on her. She doesn't have your typical Karen voice, but still, she isn't moving and keeps asking what was going on. It had been a few minutes now, and you could faintly hear sirens in the distance. The ambulance was near, and this woman was still blocking the only way into the camp. At this point, I storm out of the bus and run over to her. By this time, Carter has noticed the SUV and has made his way from staying next to Chris to getting up in this woman's face and just goes to town on her. I can't remember what he says, and it didn't help that he was screaming through his tears, but the lady eventually got the hint and went off to the side. I was ushered back into the bus, this time Carter following behind me. Once we are inside, he just breaks down. I'm still in shock when I hear something from next to the bus. Remember that other mother from before? Well, now Karen was drilling her about what was happening. The first mother, not knowing fully, tried to calmly explain the situation as best as she could. Then the Karen turns to the bus full of crying 20-year-olds. She is right outside my window, but as I am a lower rank, she addresses one of the other staff.
I am here to pick up my son.
I'm sorry, miss, but we're kind of dealing with something. If you could wait.
Why am I parked over here? This isn't the pickup. Why won't you let me go pick up my son?
Note, Chris had collapsed in the road that runs through camp. There was no way to get any vehicle other than a golf cart into the main camp because they were trying to save a woman's life. The director of the camp comes over and explains this to her, but Karen isn't having it.
I want my son. He is scared. Let me go get my son.
Ma'am, we can send for your son, but are you sure you want him to be here to see this? By now, the ambulance has arrived. They actually got into camp easily considering the construction. We are ever grateful, as it turns out they arrived just in time.
I don't care. I want my son now.
A few minutes later, a golf cart pulls up with both mom's kids in it. The first mom ushers her kid into the car and gives him something to keep him entertained as to hopefully distract him from what is happening. Then the Karen gets in her car and tells her kid to do the same. Karen starts her car and tries to leave. By now, there are 3 police, a fire truck, and an ambulance in single file along the driveway. There is no way Karen is getting out. I see Karen sigh and gets out of her car. She goes back to the director and tells him that she needs to leave. He looks at her, looks at the driveway, clearly not knowing how to respond. He tells her that they can't just move the ambulance and other first responders' vehicles just so she can leave. She huffs and crosses her arms. Their exchange continues for another few minutes until a police officer has to come over and tell the woman to get in her car and stay there. She had been trying to follow the director as he tried to leave the conversation as to give a statement as to what had happened. The mom reluctantly went into her car and spent the next 10 minutes getting death glares from a bus full of at least 50-something upset staff. Have any of you ever been to some sort of a camp? And if so, did you like it? Please let me know. I'm not in the military. Shove off. This was years ago. My husband was in the Army on his second enlistment, 5 or 6 years total at this point. He had already been through a couple deployments by this point. We were at a new base overseas, and I had gotten a job at the after-school care facility on post. Well, his unit was getting ready to deploy for 6 months, so they were in the thick of all that. The chaplain was having a pre-deployment meeting for all the spouses to talk about the changes to expect while our spouses are deployed, from practical issues to emotional stuff to disruptions in routine. Bear in mind, this was back when if you were really lucky, you maybe got a 10-minute call from your spouse once a month, maybe an email as well. Letters were still more common than anything. Now, both my husband and I are pretty easygoing, and we had both been through a couple deployments, so I already knew the drill, what to expect, how to manage, etc. So I decided not to bother with the meeting. Now, don't get me wrong, this is a fantastic resource for spouses, and they would do a post-deployment one as well to help everyone transition back to normal life with their spouses, but I didn't feel the need to attend. Couple days later, my husband shows up at my workplace and tells me he's been ordered by his lieutenant to bring me to the spouse meeting. This was a second lieutenant who was fresh out of OCS, was not prior enlisted, and my husband had socks older than this guy's term of military service. For those who don't know, a second lieutenant is the lowest ranked officer. They're the noobs, and it's very common for them to think they know it all and act accordingly. This guy was one of those. I was highly peeved, but not for one moment did I blame my husband. I could tell he was annoyed as well, and I knew that since it was a direct order that he had to obey it. I thought for a minute and asked him to hang on a minute so I could talk to my boss. Now, school was set to let out soon, and they needed me there because of adult/kid ratio requirements. But I explained the situation to my boss and told her I'd be back as soon as possible. She understood the situation and said she'd fill in for me until I could get back. She was cool that way, and everyone on base, if they weren't military, was the spouse of one due to being on an overseas base, so they all knew and understood when stuff like this came up. Very rarely you'd get the random GS employee civilian on post, but yeah, that was highly unusual. So I left with my husband, but instead of going to the chaplain's meeting, I told him to take me to his building where the second lieutenant was. He knew what I was up to and happily complied. Arrived at the lieutenant's office, knocked and went in while my husband stood in the hall. Asked him why he had ordered my husband to fetch me from my job that I was needed at. He rather pompously mansplained to me that this was a required function and that I needed to attend. Oh, I let him have it. I didn't raise my voice much, but I informed him in no uncertain terms that he had no authority whatsoever to order me to do anything. I was not in the military, not subject to his whims, and while he may be able to order my husband to come get me, he could not order me to go to this meeting. He tried interjecting at this point to say that I needed to go so that I would learn stuff about how to handle my husband being on a deployment. At this point, I nearly blew my top. I've spent more time with my husband being in the field and on deployments than you've spent in the military. My husband does not own me, he cannot force me to do anything, and neither can you. I will not be attending this meeting, and you will not force my husband to take me there. I'm going back to my job, and if I hear that you tried to make his life miserable because of it, so help me, I will go up your chain of command and make sure you regret it. Now, the building was not full, but it wasn't quite empty either. Oh, and the higher-ups were in their offices pretty close by. They were also super cool cats. My husband might have been enlisted, but they respected the work he did, and he respected them. And this lieutenant had been getting on their nerves as well. So yeah, they absolutely could hear what was going on, and I'm sure they enjoyed it. By the end of my tirade, the second lieutenant was nearly falling over himself to apologize. "Sorry, ma'am. I apologize, ma'am. It won't happen again, ma'am." He knew he was in the wrong, and by this point, he also knew I'd make a right royal stink if he tried to make me do anything or tried to punish my husband for my actions, or lack thereof. I left, and my husband took me back to my job, grinning like a fool. I was still pretty enraged at this point, but was cooling off pretty rapidly. For a few weeks afterward, I actually was concerned that there might be fallout from my husband because of what I did, but there wasn't. At least, not more than the usual BS he dealt with on a daily basis. It was one of the most satisfying moments of my life. Like I said, I'm pretty laid back normally, but I will get steamed on other people's behalf. The problem is that I almost never have the opportunity or the right to get involved, and I recognize that sometimes doing so would definitely make bad worse. So having this opportunity was just golden. Sounds like she really taught that second lieutenant a lesson, eh, Karen?
That was okay. I would have spoken to his manager.
Karen won't move, so my electric wheelchair will move Karen. You know those inconsiderate people that congregate in a high-traffic area in a shop or a public area and are oblivious that they're in the way? And when a tap on the shoulder and, "excuse me," goes unnoticed? This was one of those occasions. Only they didn't account for me and my power wheelchair. My electric wheelchair is very powerful. I can easily drag heavy objects across the floor. As long as it's not bolted to the floor, I can move it. This includes people. I'm not a violent or dangerous person, and I would never intentionally hurt someone with my chair. But that's not to say I'm afraid to show dominance or authority in certain situations if needed. This happened late last year. I had a few things to do downtown and a bit of shopping to get done. I went to my local grocery store, Woolies for my fellow yobos out there, to pick up the essentials. After I finished in the deli, I went in search of coffee and cat food, but as I rounded the corner, I saw about 6 people in a circle having a conversation and blocking the walkway. To their left was a wall, and to their right was a stocked shelf, and there was no way to go through them. Me. "Excuse me." Ignored. Me. Louder. "Excuse me." Ignored. I tapped one of them firmly on the shoulder and said, "Excuse me," again. Nothing. Instead of admitting defeat and going to the back of the store to get what I wanted, I'm stubborn. I wanted them to move so I could get past. I lightly tapped the back of the leg of one of them with the front of my power chair in hopes of getting their attention. Let's call her Karen. No luck there either. So I kept easing my chair slowly forward, making sure I wasn't running over her foot or hurting her in the process. I edged her forward a few inches before she finally noticed I was there. Karen.
OMG, what are you doing?
Me. Can I please get past?
What? Can't you see we're having a conversation? How dare you interrupt us? You're lucky I don't press charges for you running into me. Didn't your mom teach you better than that?
Me, slightly amused. My mom couldn't teach a fish to swim, but if she was here, she would have pushed you all out of her way already. I was being polite by asking you nicely to move, but clearly you're too wrapped up in your important conversation to acknowledge anyone else but yourselves. So I will ask you one last time. Will you please move aside so I can get past? By this point, their conversation stopped and they were all glaring at me like I was the rude one for wanting to get past them. Karen.
You should have waited for us to finish our conversation and not interrupted us. Kids these days.
I'm 29, so not a kid, but either way, respect is earned, not given. Me. You're in a public place and you're blocking this area for everyone. Please be more respectful and considerate to everyone else, and maybe have your important conversation somewhere else. Just a suggestion. There was enough of a gap for me to escape through, so I took it. I could hear Karen and her cronies muttering something insulting as I was leaving, but I didn't feel like hanging around to hear it. Karen clearly had his stick up her pipes, and I didn't want to push it. Who knows what a wild Karen would do? Nothing else happened after that. I finished my shopping and went on my way. I know I didn't push my chair hard enough to hurt her, so please don't come at me about that. Karen was fine. Well, as fine as a Karen can get. The moral of the story: Don't block a public space with your social gathering. Do it in an area that's big enough to do so. I'm sure you've seen people do this, and if you're one of them, shame on you.
I'll never understand why some people just love standing in your way. And I'll never understand why you expect us to move.
Facility closes at 8 sharp. I used to work at a drive-up storage facility. We had pretty cheap prices and a few deals, so we got 3 types of people renting: normal people, business people, and homeless/jobless people who try to live out of a storage unit and stay in the facility most of the day, rearranging their storage unit so they had an excuse to stay. Now, our story begins with the normal people, unfortunately. Most normal people are normal, as you would think. They are moving, need a place to store stuff. Most of the time, they aren't happy with moving, and that makes sense. I try to be patient and kind. One facility rule that owners had me enforce was that we need to kick everyone out of the facility at 8 sharp. No exceptions. The office closes before then, and my job was to drive back at 8 every night and check the whole facility. By the way, I'm not on the clock for time. I'm supposed to just do a security check. Enter a family with an older lady and her daughter renting a unit. They were easy to work with. I respect elders a lot, so I usually try to be extra friendly to older people. Move-in day. They had a big old truck full of stuff. It looked like a lot of the stuff was going to be stacked in the unit. Of course, when I come back later that night, they're still there unloading stuff. They had a bunch of guys helping them. I drive up and remind them of the rules. They must be out by 8.
But we are almost done. We can get more in. Just need a few minutes.
With previous experience, I knew how this was gonna go. I repeated the rules and told them they also signed a contract that they'd obey these rules, but I said I'd check the rest of the facility first so they could wrap up. They said thank you. I finish and drive to the front, and of course, they aren't there. I get out of my car and walk over to them, and they're still going strong unloading. So I decide to pressure a little and walk over and let them know once again the facility is closed. I stand next to them for 30 minutes. They finally decide they aren't going to finish tonight and pack up. 50 minutes after the facility closed, I let them out of the gate and went home at 9. Now, my boss caught wind of this. My boss was a real stickler for rules and stuff. He kinda had a notion that people would follow contract rules if they were enforced, but I knew people would just push our limits. My boss told me that we needed to keep the gate locked after closing time and we can't have people staying late. I didn't want to stay that late either. The next day they came back, late. They got there as the office was closing in the evening to continue unloading. I really hoped they got the message the first time, but lo and behold, when I came for the security check, they were there unloading what seemed to be a new load. I wasn't as patient with them this time. I wasn't rude, but I was definitely being more blunt with how I talked to them. I let them know again that they needed to leave immediately.
Okay, we are just finishing up.
I had heard that one before. This time I circled the unit block they were at, and every time I passed, I let them know I was done with the rest of the facility. They seemed to get the picture, but the clock still was ticking, and by the time they closed the unit and I tailgated their truck out of there, it had already been another 40 minutes past. I was tired of getting lectured by my boss on how we needed to enforce these rules. For some reason, he had a mindset that I was letting them stay and being nice. No, the first time I was nice, but I wasn't letting them stay, and I can't physically force these people out. The third day, they were finishing the unloading. While on site, I saw them and went up to them and just gave them a pass-by reminder that they needed to wrap up before 8. Later that night, I check, and yep, they are still there. I'm getting a bit peeved at this point, so I check the facility quickly, then I decide to drive out. The front gate has a code lock that denies codes after 8:10. Yeah, there was even a grace period. Since they had me let them out every time, they didn't know their code wouldn't work. At least since they didn't seem to know the rules, they definitely didn't read that in bold highlighted in our contract. So, as per my boss's order, I left the gate locked and left. I lived close, so I went home. Got a snack, watched a couple shows, then about 9:40 went back to the facility to find them stuck at the gate. They were not happy, but as I let them out, I said to them, "The facility closes at 8 sharp, and this gate locks. We aren't always around to let you out. That's why we post the close times everywhere." A lie since I checked it every day, but I didn't want them to think they could get away with it anymore. They just angrily left, but I didn't have a problem with them again. I do feel bad for that older lady, but I don't know. They just weren't listening. People who refuse to leave when you're trying to close are the worst.
Oh, they did nothing wrong. He should have just been a little more considerate and gave them a little bit more time.
Coffee lady. So I work at McDonald's right now, and man, we get really uptight, entitled people. This particular lady, deemed coffee lady by my coworkers and managers, is the epitome of entitled. She comes in, without fail, every single day, sometimes twice or 3 times a day, but always orders coffee. Now, this wouldn't be an issue if she wasn't so picky about it and so nasty and rude to new people who don't know her order by now. When I first started working there, because she didn't recognize me, after watching me make her coffee just the way she likes it, she had me redo it 5 times because it didn't taste right, and she got all snotty with me. She's nice only to the people who make it right, which is total BS. For those wondering, her coffee order has to be from a fresh pot. She doesn't mind waiting for one to brew, but even if you claim it's from a fresh pot that just finished, she won't believe you and will demand you brew another pot. She used to get a large fresh coffee with 3 creams, 24 sugars, 24. Thank God she only gets a medium fresh with 2 creams, 20 sugars now, but dang. Recently, we've started to mess with her because she's been coming into our restaurant, talking to other customers, saying how nasty our restaurant is, how we're putting customers at risk of getting sick by putting the cream and sugar in the coffee and not putting a lid on the cup while we wait for the coffee to brew. Madness, right? She's a nasty gossip, but oh so gullible. We hired this new girl about a month or 2 ago, but she hasn't been on front counter much, so she's never had to make this woman's coffee before. Cue today where the lady comes in and the new girl makes the coffee, fresh pot and everything. We have a machine that gives exact sugars and creams, so there's no way she could mess it up. And the lady says it clearly isn't fresh and tastes wrong. She makes a new pot of coffee, makes the coffee again, somehow still wrong. This lady starts being a nasty jerk to the poor girl and tries to tell her how to do her job. I would have intervened, but I was busy taking orders on headset for drive-thru and couldn't leave my station. Finally, one of my coworkers steps in, love her, and she tells this lady she will remake her coffee. Now, mind you, this lady recognizes my coworker because my coworker has been working there for years. Little does this lady know, my coworker is a savage and I love her for it. She goes back to the first pot of coffee, the one used for the first cup of coffee that the new girl used, and uses that to make the lady's coffee. And when she gave it to her, the coffee lady tasted it and said it tasted perfect, and started telling the new girl, "This is how you make coffee," and praising my coworker for actually knowing how to do her job. Meanwhile, she doesn't even realize she's playing herself because it tastes the same as the first cup she was given. I hate entitled customers, and even though it's not getting in their faces and calling them out on their BS, it's the small things in life that bring us joy. Do any of you drink coffee? If so, how do you take it? Please let me know in the comments. Oh, I love my morning coffee. It really gets me ready to talk to some managers. Entitled Mom says, "Your apartment is mine." I moved out of my parents' house 2 years ago and went off to college in a whole different country. I've been struggling with my parents' entitlement for a while, and around October 2019, I started standing up to them and getting into arguments with them on the phone. The arguments escalated to the point where they hung up on me after several insults and stopped calling me for several days. They used to call me 6 times a day. I saw it as a welcome break and thought nothing of it. After all, I was 4,000 miles away, right? Wrong. At 9:30 p.m. on a Thursday evening, I hear knocking on my studio door. I peek, and lo and behold, my mother, who hasn't spoken to me in a week, is standing in front of my door with 2 suitcases. Now, I have PTSD, and this gave me a very violent panic attack. I did not open the door that night, because who the heck shows up unannounced at night to boot? She camped in front of the door till past midnight. I put my phone in airplane mode and texted my friends for emotional support. The following morning, I found a suitcase and a note in front of my door signed by my mother. "I came all the way here to visit you and stayed till 0:30, but you weren't there." I knew I had to face her eventually, but I was trying to delay that bit. My university contacted me about a family emergency concerning your house keys. I went to the front desk and saw my mother with her suitcase. She came over to hug me and immediately said, "Give me your keys. I have nowhere to stay." Me, what are you doing here? Where did you stay last night? I found a suitcase in front of my door this morning. Do you realize how dangerous this is? It could have been flagged by security. Entitled Mom. I went to a hotel. You're exaggerating. It's just a suitcase. Now, give me your keys. I came here to stay with you. Me. Well, I have classes. I would have liked to at least knew you were coming. I haven't planned anything, and I can't stay with you. Entitled Mom. We will talk about this later. You need to go back to class. Now give me the keys. I would like to point out that I am 22 and that my boyfriend lives with me. I had to ask him to spend the night elsewhere. I gave my mother the keys to my tiny studio and went to class to have the most horrible day of my academic career. For your information, she ended up stealing stuff. When I went back home in the evening, my mom greeted me with this. This is such a spacious place. I can set in a couple of extra beds and come visit you whenever I want, and bring your 2 siblings along. Me. Mom, this whole place, bathroom and kitchen included, is small. You can't add 2 beds. I barely have enough room for myself. Mom, it's plenty of space. I'll take the bed. I'll put up a sleeping bag for you. I could stay for a whole month. And wouldn't that be great? I can visit anytime. Me. Mom, you can visit anytime, but you need to tell me when you visit. I have my own schedule. Mom. Nonsense. This is my apartment. Me. I pay my own bills with my own money. This is my studio. I am your mother. I can show up whenever I want. What will you do? Kick out your own mother? Me. No, but this place is mine. I'd like you to respect that. You are my daughter. You don't own anything. Anything you have is mine. This is my apartment. She was getting more and more agitated, and I decided to calm her down. She had rearranged all my kitchenwares and utensils and kept saying she was arranging it as she saw fit because it all belonged to her. It escalated a lot more the following night as she ended up saying I was a part of her and had no right to privacy, but that's a story for another time. Have you ever had any problems with your parents? What would you do if you're in this situation? Would you let her stay with you? Please let me know in the comments. I would just kick my kid out. Entitled Mom demands a kid's birthday party move from their reserved spot and tries to pull rank. Hello, Mr. Reddit. I love your posts and decided to share a story of my own. And if you're reading this, just know I'm smiling from ear to ear. Back in high school, I worked part-time as an attendant in a small bowling alley on a military base. One of the best jobs I ever had as a teen. And when I say small, I mean small. The bowling alley only had 4 lanes, but we also had a small kitchen, and we offered what we called extreme bowling. It's when we turn off all the lights, play music, and turn on black lights and LEDs in the lanes. Because of our setup, we were a great place for private parties, most specifically kids' parties. For the most part, hosting kids' parties were kind of fun, and every once in a while I would even get a slice of cake. However, wherever they are celebrating kids' parties, there will always be a chance of me having to deal with an entitled parent, and this is one of those stories. Cast. We've got me, we've got the entitled mom, and the cool dad. Story. It was about 20 minutes into a scheduled kids' party. All 4 lanes were booked for the next 3 hours, and there were 3 to 4 kids on every lane, with a few other adults playing. For us, this was a packed house. I had just got done handing out shoes and started getting food orders when a bat-like shriek took me off my guard. Entitled Mom. Excuse me? While clapping her hands. I knew there was music playing, but there was no reason to nearly scream so rudely to get the attention of someone only 4 feet away from you. I turned to see a wild Karen in her natural habitat. She was short, overweight, was trying to rock a pixie haircut. It was not working, and was wearing too much fake, ugly jewelry for someone not celebrating Halloween. Imagine giving the word unpleasant a face. And right next to her, 3 more kids that I didn't recognize as part of the party. Me. Hello, ma'am. Can I help you? Are you part of the party? Entitled Mom. No, I would like a lane and 4 shoes, please. Me. Ah, ma'am, I'm sorry, but we're hosting a private party right now, and they are using all 4 lanes. What? So there's no way to get a lane? I drove 20 minutes to get here. Me. I'm sorry, but not at the moment, and this party is scheduled for the next 3 hours. Well, can't they just move over? Me. What? You want them to move? Yeah. Can't you just ask them to move over so me and my kids can get a lane?
I'm sure they won't mind.
I'm sorry, ma'am, but I can't ask them to do that. That gentleman over there has already prepaid for everything, me pointing to Cool Dad, and everyone is already bowling. As soon as I ended my sentence, entitled mom practically puts her hand to my face as if to say you're useless and I'm done talking to you, and just starts walking towards Cool Dad, leaving her kids at the front counter. I try to leave the front counter to stop her, but she quickly gets to Cool Dad. Entitled mom then walks up behind Cool Dad and taps him on the shoulder.
Excuse me?
Cool Dad turns around, surprised and confused. Yeah?
Can you guys move over one lane?
Cool Dad. Excuse me?
I'm here with my kids, and we were hoping to get a lane.
I'm sorry, but I reserved these lanes, and we kinda have a big party here, and I don't want to squeeze everyone into a few lanes. Entitled mom.
Well, I think it's very inconsiderate of you to take up all 4 lanes for yourself. Do you even care about other people's kids?
I finally get between Cool Dad and entitled mom. Me. Ma'am, I'm sorry, but I can't have you here talking to our customers like this.
Well, I'm a customer too, and a business should not operate like this. You should have had a free lane for anyone who comes in. Who is your manager?
I bet he wouldn't have allowed this. Me. Ma'am, I'm sorry, but the manager himself scheduled this party with Cool Dad, and he's not here today.
Well, call him here. Either you or he fix this, or I might have to report this.
Me. Report this? To who?
My husband. He's a master sergeant.
Saying his rank with a smug look on her face. Cool Dad. Okay, that's it. Cool Dad then takes out a pen and pad from his pocket and turns to me. Don't worry, son. I got this. Cool Dad turns back to entitled mom and starts writing in his pad. You said he was a master sergeant? From what group?
Yes, Master Sergeant Smith.
Not his real name.
With the blank group.
Entitled mom said all this with that smug look still on her face, but then realized he was writing all of this down.
Excuse me? What are you writing?
Cool Dad. Being disrespectful to our civilian employees, demanding that people move from their paid reserved spots, insulting me in front of my family, and attempting to threaten one of our local businesses by using your husband's rank. The air changes. Entitled mom's smug look begins to fade. I don't know what makes you think how you're acting is acceptable, but I assure you, I'm not going to allow this to continue. Cool Dad then takes out his military ID and shows off his rank of Lieutenant Colonel. For all of those unfamiliar with U.S. Marine rankings, Lieutenant Colonel outranks Master Sergeant. It outranks it by a lot. Seeing his rank, entitled mom's face goes ghost white. Her eyeballs go shockingly round, and it even looks like she forgot how to breathe. It was one of the most gratifying things I have ever had the pleasure of witnessing. If I had my camera on me, I would have made it my screensaver. Cool Dad has now gone beyond the limits of a regular Cool Dad and has transformed into Cool Officer. Cool Officer. Ma'am, can you do me a favor? Can you tell your husband that he can expect to see me Monday morning? I want to have a little talk with him and his superiors, and I assure you, he is not going to like it. Entitled mom then quietly grabs her kids and quickly shuffles away defeated. Insert anime victory music. As an apology for what happened, I gave Cool Officer a discount on sodas, and as a thank you for letting him handle the situation, I got my free slice of birthday cake. I don't know what happened to entitled mom or her husband after that, but she never came back, and that's a victory all on its own. What would you say to a Karen if she tried to hold her husband's rank over you? Please let me know.
Lieutenant Colonel. My husband is a general. A re-general.
Really? Which one?
I'm not telling you.
Entitled Dad demands a meeting room to speak with his daughter. Sir, you aren't allowed to see her. So, background info. I worked in a high school in a low socioeconomic area for a while. Now, when you work at a school, you have a database of students' names with basic information like parent contacts, medical issues, and restricted access notes. Restricted access notes just means that the kid is not allowed to be seen by certain people, whether that be due to divorce or something worse. This day was a day like any other, and I was absolutely flat out trying to get work done and deal with phone calls. This dad walks in around third period and takes his seat, seeing that I am busy. Eventually, I call him over and ask how I can help him. Entitled Dad.
Yes, I'd like to use one of your meeting rooms to speak with my kid, please.
Me. I'm sorry, I'll have to check if meeting rooms are available for such a thing without staff member presence. They weren't allowed to, by the way. Entitled Dad.
No, it has to just be me and her.
He started to fidget at this point. Me. I knew something was up now. Oh, what's the student's last name? And what was your name? He gave me the names and I looked her up in the system. She had a restricted access, not for her father, who was the man standing in front of me. Obviously, I can't see the details on the note, but it does state that there is a restraining order against him. Me. I'm sorry, sir. No one by that name attends this school.
No, I know she does. This is the only high school in the area. Just let me talk to her.
Me. Again, sir, there is no one by that name here. I can't help you.
I'm going to talk to her mother, you bunch of jerks trying to keep me away from my daughter. She's my daughter, and I can see her if I want to.
He called me a few other names before leaving the office in a rage. I just ended up sighing and calling the mother to let her know what happened before writing up a report of our interaction in case the police were involved. The mother eventually came to pick up her daughter early. Mistaken for the tour guide at my own bachelorette dinner. Some background. I recently got married to my dear husband last January. My husband and I work in Japan, but we're both expats. So we kept our wedding guest list short and limited to our immediate family and close friends because our families would have had to fly here just to attend. It's a big ask. My husband and I are also very introverted. We don't drink, we're not overly fond of parties, and we're both very close to our immediate families. So we thought instead of having a bachelor or bachelorette party, why not host a dinner for our respective families? We both agreed, and our families liked the idea too. They wanted to spend time with us on the last night before we were officially married. He and his family went to another restaurant, and me and mine to another. My family is composed of my parents, my brothers and my sister-in-laws, my aunts and my uncles. On to the scene. My family and I went to this Chinese restaurant at the hotel we were staying at. My family loves Chinese food, so we thought it was a great choice. We had a whole room reserved for our table, so we had some privacy. Because we were in a room, we had one head waitress who was the liaison between our party and the waitstaff. She spoke Japanese, and I could also speak Japanese, but my family could not. So I sat at the end of the long table so it was easier to talk to the staff, because I did a lot of translating back and forth between my family and her. If she asked a question, I would translate for my family and relay the answers to her in Japanese. If my family had a question, it was the same deal. When the third dish was served, she came to ask me a question about the fourth dish. We've got me, we've got head waitress, we've got my brother. Waitress. Should we serve the fourth dish individually, or should we let everyone decide how much to put on their plate? Me. Individually, please. Thank you. Her. Okay. She made a note in her order tablet. By the way, this party is for the wedding tomorrow, right? Me. Yeah, we're all really excited. Everybody flew in from another country, and it's been stressful, but it's finally tomorrow. Waitress gestures to my brother and sister-in-law, who are coincidentally sitting at the center of the long table. Are they the lucky couple? They look so good together. Me. I'm the bride-to-be. She was quiet for a full 20 seconds, and I so felt bad for her. So I laughed it off. Me. But I agree, they do look good together. They've been married for a good 4 years already. She sighed, hopefully in relief. Waitress. I'm sorry, I thought you were the tour guide. Me. It's okay, don't worry about it. Then she excused herself to take care of the fourth dish. Brother. What was that about? Is there a problem? Me. She thought you and your wife were the ones getting married tomorrow. Brother. Oh, you probably looked like the tour guide for our group. Me. Yeah, that's what she said. Did I really look like the tour guide? Bro. I mean, everybody's paired off. You're the only one without a partner, and you're the only one who can speak Japanese. You've been talking to her about everyone's orders and basically running around. We told our family that conversation, and everyone had a good laugh. I made sure I went to talk to the head waitress afterwards to make sure she was all right. She was. I also made sure I talked to the manager to let him know that his waitstaff was exemplary. We don't give tips in Japan, but I would have tipped her so much if I could. Thanks for reading my story. Speaking of Chinese food, that's gotta be one of my favorites. What's your favorite food of all time? Please let me know. Pizza's a close second, and pancakes.
My favorite thing to devour is souls.
Entitled mom wants daughter's wishes catered to on OP's family picnic they were invited to. My family. Dad, mom, me, elder brother, and maid, Red, second mom, loved going on these picnics as a family whenever we had a long weekend or vacation. Me, around 10 at the time, and brother, 13, were in school, and whenever we had the chance, we used to pack up my dad's SUV, 7-seater, and head out on the pond. Now, living in the Middle East, most picnic spots were at least 100 kilometers away, so it used to become a road trip as well, and we had a lot of fun. Now, since there were 5 of us, my dad suggested we bring along this family friend, Entitled Mom and her daughter, who was 8 at the time. A little background. Entitled Mom was a rude jerk. Her daughter never really spoke much and was very quiet around people. Her dad didn't take them on trips like my family, and since we always had 2 extra seats in the SUV, we thought we'd invite them out this time. On all of these picnics, my mom and maid would wake up early and cook up some tasty lunch so we could eat at the picnic spot. Plus, we'd pick up juices and snacks and things like that. So we did the same this time. We had lunch, sandwiches, juices, chips, and all of that. We had prepped the SUV for the trip, and we were on our way to pick up Entitled Mom and her daughter. From the time they set foot in the car, Entitled Mom had her own set of standards. Like her daughter should sit in the middle row seats, not the back ones. AC on full blast because of the heat outside, 45 plus degrees Celsius, which by the way was not affecting the interior, but was set at a crisp 22 degrees Celsius, wanting food all along the way and whatnot. Entitled Mom herself was a housewife, but she didn't bother to bring along anything for this trip except a 500 milliliter bottle of water and her daughter's makeup kit. This already had my mom upset, but she let it go. We got to the spot, which was a hill station kind of place, so the rules to go up the treacherous roads were no more than 5 people allowed in an SUV, and only SUVs were allowed up the mountain. We had another set of friends trailing us in another car, but they weren't allowed up, so we unloaded my brother and maid, and they would wait for us in the car at the base of the mountain as my parents, me, Entitled Mom, and her daughter would go up and spend about an hour touring around, since the latter 2 had never been there, but we had. Once we got up there, Entitled Mom had a fit because we didn't bring along her daughter's favorite juice. Then she wanted to wait for about half an hour extra than planned so her daughter could enjoy the view. We ended up spending 2 hours extra. All the while, we had 2 people from the other car and 2 people from ours waiting for us to return. We did finally return to the base and had lunch there, where Entitled Mom and her daughter feasted on what we had made and brought along. We used to take our own utensils, and after eating would wash them and bring them back. Entitled Mom didn't help in washing at all. She and her daughter enjoyed the cool air of the AC in the vehicle while we were cleaning up in the 46 degree plus heat. We then left from there and headed back to the city. On the way back, Mom asked me and my brother if we'd like to go out for dinner, and we were stoked. We rarely ever got to eat KFC. It was just considered unhealthy, and so we rarely ate there. So me and Elder Bro decided we'd go there and told Mom. Entitled Mom, on the other hand, makes a fuss, saying that her daughter wanted McDonald's and tells my dad that. My dad, without asking us, takes us to McDonald's, which both me and my brother hated with a passion, and he knew it. When we said we didn't want to eat there, he said, "Fine, you can stay hungry." My mom lost it, but she wasn't the one to make a scene. She calmed us down and said we'd get some KFC on the way home. Entitled Mom didn't pay a single dime for the whole trip, for her food, her daughter's McDonald's, or anything, yet expected us to cater to her daughter's whims. When we got home, Mom absolutely went berserk on Dad for ignoring his own son's wishes and letting Entitled Mom have her way. My dad said that Entitled Mom's husband never took them out, so he wanted to let the daughter have whatever she wanted. There was a huge fight and all, but it ended with us all being upset with Dad. Years later, we found out that Dad had been cheating on my mom with Entitled Mom. Do any of you like going on picnics? I mean, who doesn't?
Oh, I hate picnics. There's no managers or employees to harass.
Oh, you'll find someone to harass, Karen. You always do. I do work here, but I think you're confused about where you are. I worked in a gas station as a teenager for 2 years. I was pretty shy back then and worked with mostly mid-20s guys who were hilarious and great to work with. I loved that job, but obviously dealing with public, you're gonna have some weird and annoying stories, especially since people complain at you for the price of gas. For your information, the girl at the till normally doesn't control the price of petrol. Please stop complaining to her about how expensive it is. It was a small enough station with a decent shop and an automatic coffee machine just by the door that actually made pretty good cappuccinos, etc. Normally, there would be at least 2 people working behind the counter. We each got a 15-minute break during long shifts, but if it got busy, you could ring a bell to let them know you needed help. One day I was working with one of the lads. He was hilarious. While I would always try to be extra polite to aggravated customers, this guy did not care. He took no crap. He had worked there too long. He was also built like a tank, so his attitude was rarely met with much retaliation. He was taking his break in the back, and this older woman in her 60s walked in. Lady:
Hello, I would like a coffee.
Me: Oh yes, we have a machine just over there that serves lots of types of coffee. Just press the button for whatever one you'd like. I smile. Lady, looking at the machine I gestured at, looks back at me and scoffs.
If I wanted to make my own coffee, I could do that at home.
She stares at me. Me: Oh, well, I'm sorry, but that's the coffee maker we have. It's actually quite nice though, but there aren't really any coffee shops nearby. Silence, still staring.
So, are you going to make me a coffee?
Me, confused. Oh, well, I'm not supposed to leave the register. I have to.
This is ridiculous. I am a paying customer, and you won't serve me? This is a disgrace.
Bear in mind, there's nowhere to sit. It's a to-go coffee machine. I was just beyond confused at this point. She storms over to the machine and presses one of the buttons for a coffee.
Since I'm the one doing your job, there's no way I'm paying for this. I'll take my coffee and go, and I'll be telling people about the terrible service here.
Now, I didn't know, but Tank Bro had wandered out from the back and had been listening. He quietly walked between her and the door while the coffee was pouring and folded his muscly arms, looking like a nightclub bouncer. Older lady turns to walk out with the coffee cup. Tank Bro:
Sorry, where the heck do you think you are? I'm not paying to make my own coffee.
You're in a petrol station. We're not a restaurant. Pay for the coffee and get out.
I'm not paying.
Then hand it over. She reluctantly hands him the coffee, which he takes a swig from straight away and smiles. She storms out. Tank Bro tells me,
Forget this job.
That was one of my favorite work days. Well, it sounds like that Karen really wanted her coffee.
Unfortunately, that stupid employee wouldn't make it for her.
Friend told me all our other friends hated me, so I made them hate her. Hi, Re-Army and Mr. Reddit. This is my first post on Reddit, and I actually made this account just to post here. But I have been a subscriber to Mr. Reddit for quite a bit, and I love your videos. I hope this is one you choose to feature on your channel. Cast: We've got me, a wee been dead. We've got friend, Madison, fake name. We've got real friends, Jocelyn, Tammy, and Peyton, also fake names. Okay, so this story is actually pretty old, but it made a huge impact on my life, so I remember most of the details pretty well. I had this person that I considered a friend, Madison. I told her all kinds of secrets and stuff and shared my insecurities with her. The problems first started when she started to get mad at me for no reasons. This girl would flip her lid if I spoke too loudly or interrupted her on accident after a long, awkward pause. If I started to talk about something that wasn't interesting to her, she would interrupt me and make it known how little she cared. So obviously, after enough of this, any normal person would get fed up and consider the idea that maybe this isn't the healthiest friendship. Yeah, not me. I kept apologizing for making her mad and running back to her. It's not that I didn't have any other friends or anything, I just hate losing friends, especially ones that I can trust. However, she completely changed my mind and lost my trust one day after her boyfriend messaged me and insulted me. Remember me mentioning I told her all my insecurities? I won't say this one in particular, but it's definitely a huge burden, and he insulted me about it. I got super mad and blocked his number, then messaged Madison like, "What the heck? I told you that because I trusted you. I don't go around telling people you're crap." She tried to play it off like,
"Oh no, I didn't tell him. I don't know how he found out."
But I was seeing through her BS this time. Despite knowing she was lying and being rude on purpose, I still continued to hang out with her the next few days. After a few days of pretending like nothing was wrong, she started to distance herself from me. I was like, okay, fine, maybe stuff is happening at home. But then she started being mean to me again. I was enduring her treating me poorly for weeks, but decided to text her, basically something like, hey, are you mad at me or something? I don't know what I did to upset you. Mind talking to me about it? Now here's where it gets juicy. This jerk replies with,
Well, actually, I've been meaning to talk to you about this.
insert every single slightly annoying thing I may have done in the past month.
Is why I'm mad at you.
So I'd like to briefly mention that I do have an eccentric personality. I can tend to be a little hyper and a little over-enthusiastic at times. I don't want to self-diagnose, but there is the potential that it could be ADHD.
This is why I don't actually really like you. Neither does Jocelyn, Tammy, or Peyton. You annoy all of us, and we talk about it behind your back.
Obviously, I was mad and upset by this. Who was she to say that our other friends hated me? I basically told her off and said, hey, listen, if you're gonna hate me over some personality traits or quirks I have while pretending to be my friend, you don't deserve mine or anybody else's friendship, quite frankly. After that, my dramatic high schooler self decided to text my other friends and say, hey, do you guys hate me? Do I annoy you guys? They all basically responded with something along the lines of, what? No. If I hated you, I would tell you, or wouldn't waste my time hanging out with you. So yeah, that was settled. Yay, friends don't hate me. But I was so livid by this point, I really wanted to get at Madison for treating me the way she did. So for the next few weeks, we all still shared a lunch table. Madison did every attempt to get under my skin, ranging from making rude comments under her breath to straight up stealing my seat at the table. She got to lunch before I did. I literally did nothing but continued ignoring her antics and plastering a smile on my face, be it a fake one, but she couldn't tell. The fact that her goals of making me miserable at lunch weren't paying off, she slowly grew aggravated as the year continued to progress. Eventually, her irritation and apparent infatuation with me took over, and since she couldn't make me mad, she left the lunch table. She started crap talking not only me, but our other mutual friends, who all found out because she wasn't a quiet crap talker, and they stopped being friends too. She chased all her friends away in a matter of a month and had nobody to sit with at lunch because she pushed them all away. Well, this story just goes to show you, always treat others the way you want to be treated.
Unless you're better than they are.
Entitled Stepmom Shaves My Head to Get Back at My Mom. My parents split up when I was 2, and both immediately paired up with the nightmares whom I would then be stuck with for the next 16 years. Both of my parents' new partners were horrible in different ways, but this story focuses on my real-life wicked stepmother. We'll call her Vanessa. Something you should all know about my father is that he was not an involved parent. Before me, he had 2 other kids with different women that he never saw, so it made sense when my parents broke up that I went to live with my mom. She made a lot of bad choices, but we actually had a relationship, and I felt like she loved me. My dad and I, however, did not have a close relationship at all. When he started dating Vanessa, we met and she seemed normal enough, but after they got married, things started to change. Vanessa hated my mother. Maybe because she was younger, maybe because she was more attractive, maybe because she was my dad's ex, or maybe it was just because Vanessa was a truly hateful person. But the reason doesn't matter. What does matter is that after marrying my dad, Vanessa had it out for my mom. What's one of the worst things you can do to a mother? Take her kid and turn that kid against them. And that is exactly what Vanessa tried to do. She convinced my dad to take my mom to court and to rip me away from my family. The courts eventually decided to give primary custody of me to my father because my mother had 2 other kids, one with a disability, and my dad and Vanessa made more money. Vanessa did try for a long time to turn me against my mother, but I was utterly devoted. My mom and her other 2, and then 3 kids were the only family I had ever known, and I loved them with everything I was. No amount of trash talking my other family or trying to win me over were successful. So when Vanessa realized she couldn't hurt my mother that way, she tried another tactic. She was going to treat me as badly as she legally could and rub it in my mom's face. That is where this story actually starts. My mom was very gothy, and I idolized her, so naturally I wore as much black as I was allowed to, and was very excited to grow up and have dyed gothy hair and tattoos and tons of piercings. When I was 10 years old, my mom bought me my very first bottle of semi-permanent black hair dye. I was so excited, but I told her, "Mom, I don't think Vanessa will let me dye my hair. She wants me to look normal for church. She won't even let me wear black clothes on Sunday." My mom's response was something along the lines of, "Vanessa can shove it. If this is what you want, this is what we're going to do. Don't ever let people like her tell you who you are allowed to be or what you're allowed to look like. You are your own person." And I felt that in my heart. Vanessa hated everything about what made me the person I was anyway. How much worse could black hair possibly make it? Never ask how much worse a situation can get, guys, because the universe will be there winding up the most wicked curveball you've ever seen to show you just how much worse it can get. And that's exactly what happened. I returned to my father's home with sleek, shiny blue-black hair, soft and thick and all the way down past my waist, and Vanessa ordered my dad to take me to the barber and have it all shaved off. My father took me and held me down while I kicked and screamed and cried, "No, please don't cut my hair," while the barber gave me a buzz cut. I was traumatized. My mother was traumatized, and Vanessa hated dragging an already masculine girl to church with no hair. But over time, I adjusted and decided to use it against Vanessa. I never grew my hair out to a normal girl's length again and bleached and dyed it every color under the sun, because what's the worst she could do to me? Shave it off? Edit. I'm 26 now. I've been out of the house since I turned 18, and a lot of people are asking why the barber agreed to do this. He was a close family friend of Vanessa's, and she paid him very well. My dad ended up telling me years later that the barber looked really uncomfortable and didn't seem like he wanted to, though that obviously didn't stop him. Well, I'm sure glad she doesn't have to deal with her stepmom anymore. Have any of you guys ever dyed your hair? If so, what color? Please let me know.
Oh, kids these days, nothing you do makes any sense.
Karen and her husband attacked me at a gas station. A little bit of backstory. I suffer from PTSD from childhood traumas and awful anxiety, and on some days it's difficult for me to even go outside. I hate confrontation. I'm about to get my license and my birthday is coming soon. For the cast, we have me, we have my dad, Karen, her husband, and their 2 kids. On to the story. Me and my dad were going on a short trip to Beaver Falls, and he's been making me drive him everywhere for practice. We were running low on gas, so we decided to stop by a gas station that I won't name, and this is where my day went from good to a nightmare. Me and my father had gone inside to pay for gas and grab some drinks. While I was getting some chips, a kind older lady asked if I could help her grab something. I'm about 5'2", but this lady was even shorter than I was, and being the kind person I was raised to be, grabbed the drinks that the older lady wanted and went to pay for the snacks. At this time, my dad paid for the gas, and before heading to the bathroom, had asked me to pump the gas as well. On my way out to my dad's truck, a woman had grabbed my shoulder, scaring me. I spun around and said, "Please, do not touch me." As soon as I had seen her face, I knew I had run into a wild Karen. Karen instantly sneered at me, saying,
"I need your assistance, now."
Confused, I had responded with, "Excuse me?" But I said it in German. I hadn't even noticed I had said it in another language until the lady looked up in shock and screamed,
"What did you just say to me?"
I had tried to apologize because my mind had not yet wrapped around what was happening, but she had cut me off. Cue the famous Ree.
"I should have you fired, you lazy jerk. Refusing to help me and cursing at me in a different language. My kids want to leave for food, and you won't help us get gas."
I sat there stuttering because I struggled with being yelled at and was in a mixture of shock and confusion, unable to answer her. She let out a high-pitched screech and walked away from me like a spoiled teenager not getting to go to their friend's house. I walked away as well. I thought that would be the end of it, but I was wrong. I had just started pumping the gas and stepped away, looking at my phone, still wondering what had just happened when a very large man had just started walking towards me, immediately yelling at me, but I didn't know if he was talking to me, so I just sat there awkwardly glancing up at him from my phone, not listening to what Karen's husband was going on about. He got right up into my face, and my only response I could muster was, Can I help you?" He groaned at me and started with, "I've been waiting long enough for someone to come out and pump my gas. I demand you help me now." I started to try to explain, but was incredibly confused, wondering why he would think I worked there. "Sir, I don't work here. I'm just pumping my gas." He looked me up and down and started screaming at me. "You lying jerk! My wife saw you inside helping an old lady, and you refused to help her. She deserves that respect more than that lady inside." Second entitled Re. I had almost started to cry, but my attitude slipped through and I yelled back at the man. I don't know what came over me, but I remember screaming, "Listen, jerk! I do not work here. Even if I did, I would not have to pump your gas, especially since you're acting like a jerk." I live in Washington. People pump their own gas. I think it's different elsewhere. Karen's husband started getting even louder, shouting even closer to my face, saying, "Someone should teach you some respect, you little grunt. Where is your dang manager so I can have you immediately removed from your job? What if I get sick from this gas pump and give it to my kids?" This had gotten the attention of some others. I glared into his soul. I said, "I have already told you. I do not work here, and you will not get sick. Just sanitize your dang hands and leave me alone. You're screaming at a kid, causing a scene and embarrassing yourself. I'm pumping my gas. You can pump yours. Jerk." He looked shocked for a split second that some kid had spoken back to him, but this man, maybe 6'4" and 200 pounds, like I said, to me that's a giant, had shoved me into the gas pump. One of the two kids had come out of the car they were in and had set me up, and the other started screaming at her dad. I don't know what they were saying. I was having a panic attack and couldn't move. My dad had finally come out and punched the guy, seeing what was happening, and had broken his nose. Shortly after that, the cops had shown up. I think someone at a different pump had called, and at this point, I was in too much shock to know what to do or say. Everything was a blur, but I just wanted to go home. My dad and the kids gave their statements defending me, and the Karen and her jerk were both cuffed. Man, it sounded like Karen really wanted her gas.
Never mess with a Karen at a gas station.
Yeah, that's like your prime territory for harassing people, isn't it?
You got that right.
Eat my food? I'll feed you cat food. This happened a few years ago when my brother was living at my place for a short period of time. We're both adults and should know the rule of don't steal others' food. Well, I know this rule. My brother, however, does not. He's never had a solid meal routine. Instead of eating 3 meals a day, he eats periodically throughout the day. When he moved in, I told him firmly that he was not to eat any of my food and only eat his own, which he agreed to. The first few days were fine, but after a week, I started to notice certain things disappearing, and I had to do more shopping than usual. I asked him if he had been taking my food, but he was adamant that he wasn't. I knew better than this. Since a very early age, I've been able to tell if my brother is lying, which in this case he was. But I've never pulled him up on this, so he doesn't know I can pick a lie. Bring on the petty revenge. In my next shop, I purchased cooking chocolate, wasabi, canned tuna, and canned tuna cat food. The next day after he left for work, I began. I soaked the cans in the sink for 10 minutes to get the labels off and replaced the labels, making sure to scratch off the pet food sign on them. I placed them back in the cupboard. I have a cat, so the cat food wasn't out of place. After putting a layer of melted chocolate onto the cake molds and letting them set, I coated the insides with a very generous coat of wasabi and then sealed them with more chocolate. The chocolate/wasabi creations I made were small enough to put the whole piece in your mouth at one go, and I made sure to make enough that 1 or 2 wouldn't be noticeable, setting the trap perfectly for my brother. All I had to do was wait. When my brother got home later that day, I casually went into my room to wait, and right on cue, I heard the cupboards opening and closing and cans being opened. Brilliant. About 10 minutes later, I heard the fridge being opened. Gotcha. 20 seconds later, I heard my brother screaming and yelling. "Ah! What the heck? Oh my god, what is this? OP, what the heck did you do? What is this?" I came out of my bedroom with a smile on my face. "What's wrong?" Faking concern. Brother, pointing at the plate on the table with the chocolates on it. "What the heck is this? Are you trying to hurt me?" Me. "Why were you eating my food? I thought you said you weren't eating my food." Silence followed with him muttering something under his breath as he walked to his room and slammed the door. I had a look in the bin, and sure enough, there were empty cans of tuna in there. I yell to my brother through his door. How was the cat food? The what? The cans of tuna in the cupboard are cat food. I hope you liked it. What the heck? Why would you do that? What's wrong with you? He never ate my food again. Have any of you guys ever tried pet food? If so, did you like it?
There's no reason any of you should be eating pet food. It's foolish.
Well, I take it you've never tried those bacon strips for the dogs.
No, and I don't plan on it either.
Karen mistakes me for a teen mom and says my kids are going to hate me because of their freak names. Cast. We've got me, the magical momster. We've got F, my then 14-year-old son. We've got D1, my older daughter, D2, my then infant daughter, and PO, my hero off-duty officer. Now on to the story. For a little background, I did have my son while I was still in my late teens, and I've always looked younger than I am, so people have thought I was his sister rather than his mom for years. After having my daughter though, I didn't get questioned quite as much until this day. Now one of my local grocery stores, we have 3, has a coffee place kiosk inside of it that rhymes with bar stocks, and to tame this momster, I must have my coffee daily and rarely forget to bring any with me. But this day I did because a winter storm was on its way and I needed to get some groceries in case I couldn't get out for a few days. So I walk up and order my overpriced yet delicious coffee goodness and step to the other side to wait. Son asks to go look at something, so I let him and off he goes. If I had already had my coffee and wasn't so out of it, I would have probably heard the thunder of the approaching Karen, but I didn't. Me, standing patiently waiting for my coffee. Karen.
You know it's nice of you to give your mom a break by watching your little brother and sister, but it is far too cold out for you to be dragging them out, and you're too young to be drinking coffee anyways. How did you even get here? Where are your parents? You can't drive without a parent.
Me. Looks around, confused to see who she's talking to, and realize there are no other people around, and she's speaking to me. I'm sorry, what?
Stupid, irresponsible teenagers. You heard me. It is too cold to have these babies out so you can look cool in front of your friends with coffee. You're too young to be drinking it.
Bends down to my older daughter.
What's your name, sweetie? And where is your mummy?
Daughter. My name is, insert beautiful unusual name here. And my mommy is right there. Points to me. Karen.
No, sweets, that's your sister. Where is your mummy?
Me. Ma'am, I am her mom. Both of these are my daughters. Karen. Insert Mr. Reddit Re here.
It's disgusting. A child of your age bringing innocent kids into the world with no idea on how to take care of them. What is your name? I'm going to make sure these kids get a proper home.
She then reaches for my infant daughter, who is the happiest baby and has been smiling in her pink car seat wearing her pink snowsuit with a pink bow in her head.
Come here, handsome little guy. Let's get you away from
me, pushing her hands away from my baby. What are you doing? At this time, I notice my son has walked back, and he is a big kid already taller than me and has played football for years, and he's watching this take place and getting mad. Karen.
You are clearly too young and incapable of caring for this baby boy and girl, and you are too young to be their mother, and I will take them to the authorities.
My son walks over and taps this lady on the shoulder. Ma'am, why are you harassing my mom and my sisters?
Beat it, kid. This doesn't concern you.
Me. Actually, it does concern him, as I am his mother too, and you are threatening to steal his sisters.
That baby is a boy.
Me. My baby is a girl, and her name is, insert beautiful unusual girl's name here. Now please leave us alone. Karen lunges for my daughter's car seat, causing it to start falling, all the while screaming. Son and I both dive to catch the car seat in time. Me unbuckles her from the seat to make sure she's okay and calm, as this has made her cry. What is wrong with you? Are you crazy? Karen tries to take my daughter from my arms now.
These can't be your kids. You aren't old enough. You've stolen them and gotten your boyfriend,
gestures to my son,
to help you lie. These kids are coming with me, and you both are going.
Police officer appears out of nowhere. Hello, OP. How are you today? Kneels down to daughter 1. Hello, princess. You're getting so big. To my son. How's football going, big man? You helping your mom with the others? Karen, turning crimson, looks at the officer.
Do you know these kids?
Officer. Yes, I have for years. Karen.
Good. Then you can tell me where their real mother is.
Officer is confused. OP is their real mother. Karen screeches.
What is wrong with you people? She's obviously a kid herself. She can't even drive without a parent.
Me. Ma'am, I'm 33 years old. This is my 14-year-old son, my 5-year-old daughter, and my infant daughter. I have the stretch marks for each one of them. Now, please leave us alone. Now, unbeknownst to me, Officer has been watching and saw Karen cause daughter's car seat to fall and has already called on duty police. Karen,
You are not older than 16.
jumps and grabs daughter too while I'm hanging on for dear life trying to get away. Officer, that's enough. Lunges forward and places Karen on the ground. Karen screaming at the top of her lungs.
Help! They've stolen my babies! Help!
Finally, the officers that he had called showed up and Karen gets up.
Oh, thank God, police. This girl is trying to steal these babies, and this man tried to hurt me.
Me to the officers. Hey guys, long time no see. Karen, face turns to fear, then pure crazy.
It's all a conspiracy. She can't be the mom. Plus, these kids will hate you for giving them freak names. They are better off with someone normal.
She then lunges and grabs for the baby once again. This time she's tackled and cuffed and taken away as she's leaving. I'm in shock, but my son shouts after her. Enjoy jail, Karen! And by the way, we love our different names. If you're normal, I'd much rather stay weird. Proud mom moment right there. Anyways, she sat in jail for quite some time before bonding out and disappearing. There's still a warrant out for her arrest, and if caught, I will have to testify in court. But honestly, I hope I never see her again. That's gotta be one of the craziest Karens I've ever heard of.
Oh, her heart was in the right place. She was just trying to get those kids to their rightful parents.
I don't work here, I live here. More than 10 years ago, my partner and I ran our design business out of an old warehouse converted to live workspaces. We leased one space to live and another for our business with a third partner and 2 employees. The landlord who converted the space, wanting to give back to the area, created a large dance performing and practice space. A small dance company picked up the lease and rented out the space when they weren't using it. This created more than a few problems between the dancers and the live-work tenants. Dance Karens and Kevins and musicians would pay their $15 for an hour or two, believing they had the right to be as loud or obnoxious as they wished, ignoring the fact that the live-work tenants paid between $1,500 to $2,500 a month for a nice place to live and or work. Dancers would change in the hallways and change into their dance clothes before going in the studio space. We were told often, just as we walked in the door, to be quiet, there is a performance underway. I can't tell you how often we would walk down to the laundry room to find grungy, dirty underpants and clothes in piles outside the studio door. As mentioned above, we had 2 spaces. We lived directly above the building's lobby, and our workspace was directly above the dance studio. I'm a fairly easygoing bloke, as I believe most large men are. Think Great Danes. I have never thrown a fist in anger or even been in a fight. My size might have a lot to do with that, but I have always preferred talking out disputes. Well, one evening, around 9 or so, our partner was working late while we had retired to our living space. This evening was particularly noisy. Drums and dance sticks pounding out staccato rhythm to oppressively loud music. Our partner isn't as easygoing as I, and I knew it had to be even louder in the design studio. It wasn't long before I heard him take a rubber mallet to the floor and add his own pattern to the tumult. He had done it before. I don't think it hurts to give noisy folks a reminder they aren't the only ones in the world, but I prefer to do it gently, in person. As I sat on the couch, pretending to be able to hear the news, an unknowing dance Kevin threw our door open, stalked up to my wife, and started yelling about how they paid their $15 and they can do whatever they want. I sat and waited for the first break, and with a little bit of a raised voice said, "You just broke into a private residence." Dance Kevin started in again, so I raised my voice again and repeated the statement as I stood up. He stopped mid-rant, took a slow look around, and immediately started backing up. The apology started as he fumbled out with the knob. I got one more, "This is my private residence," before he ducked out the door. I then locked the door. Yeah, it should have been locked all along. The music was off and quiet within 2 minutes, and we never saw him again. My wife went over to see if she needed to mop up anything. There were many other incidents between the dance Kevins and the tenants, but this seemed to be the beginning of the end. Within a year, the dance space was converted to more live workspace. It provided higher rent for the landlord and got rid of a lot of the problems.
What do you mean I can't look at the food?
So this happened like a month ago, and I'm still a bit shocked at how entitled some people can be. This all happened in the span of like 5 minutes. My dad and I went to grab some food one night at Panda Express. With everything going on right now, where I live, Panda does not allow people to go up to the food window things anymore, and you have to order at the entrance. At the entrance, they have a menu with the food they have, so you at least have an idea of what you want. To avoid people from going up to the windows, they use chairs to block the path. So my dad and I were waiting for our food when a guy came in, looked to be in his 50s or 60s, and he was in an electric wheelchair, and just drove in the direction of the windows with no sign of stopping. He rammed into a few chairs before the employees came out asking him to stop. The guy stops and just stares at her and says the most disgusted and annoyed, "What?" I've ever heard. Their conversation went a little like, employee, "Sir, I'm sorry, but we can't have people go up to the windows right now due to what's going on." Guy,
What do you mean I can't go up there? I want to look at what you have.
employee, "I understand, sir, and I apologize for the inconvenience, but it's a health safety precaution we're taking to minimize the risk of people getting sick."
I don't care. You need to let me see what food you have. Let me pass, or I will have you fired.
Classic entitled person line. Employee, "I can't do that, sir, but I could let you speak to the manager if you really want to."
Forget your manager. I want to see what food you have.
We have menus right here if you'd like to see one to get an idea of what you'd like to have.
No, I want to see the food with my own eyes. Let me pass. You're violating my rights.
After more back and forth, he finally agreed to look at the menu and ordered. For context, there was a sign that said that cash was allowed, but that debit or credit was preferred.
Oh, so now you're going to tell me that I'm not allowed to pay with cash?
No, sir. Cash is allowed, but debit or credit is preferred.
So now you're going to make me feel ashamed for paying with cash? You're trying to make me feel guilty for not having a credit card?
Not at all. I was simply correcting you and informing you on payment methods.
Whatever, I'm paying in cash, unless it's an inconvenience for you. I know you just don't want to count money, so that's why you want me to pay with a card. You people get lazier every day.
What? I was just...
Whatever.
After he said that, he pulls out the biggest bag of coins I've ever seen and just dumps it on a table that was displaying cookies and drinks and starts counting out dimes and nickels to pay. Oh, and before anyone says, what if that's the only money he had, I'm gonna add that he had bills in that bag too. The employee looks at the pile of coins with a face of disbelief and looks over at me. I just shook my head. Seconds later, we got our food and left, so I didn't see what happened after. Normally, when I see people counting out coins to try and pay, I was raised to ask if they wanted some help to pay for their food. But this guy, he was an exception. 1, he disrespected the employee. 2, he's purposefully paying with coins when he has a good amount of bills. And 3, his attitude is just gross. To all who work in retail, food, etc., my condolences go out to you guys because of all the entitled people you have to deal with. Speaking of Panda Express, what's your favorite food of all time?
I could go for some Panera bread right now.
How we finally changed our home phone number. So this was going on for a couple of years in the late 90s, early 2000s when yellow pages and landlines were still a thing. There's a community pool near the apartment building where me and my family used to live at the time. Since landline numbers were very similar for people and businesses in the same location, ours was similar to the community pools. The only difference being our home number ends in 393 and theirs is 939. Now, you'd expect a person to mess up these two once in a while, but after multiple calls a day started, we bought the current Yellow Pages edition and found out that they actually printed our home number as the number of the community pool. This was corrected in later editions. As you can expect, this led to multiple calls a day asking us about our working hours, etc. Usually you tell people, it's a private number, the mistake is in the Yellow Pages, and they apologize and never call again. Some people would try multiple calls, like calling multiple times will magically transfer the call to the right people, but you finally tell them to buzz off already, and they do. There was this one dude that I remember to this day though. I answered the phone. I don't know the exact year, but I can't have been more than 10 or 11 years old. So little me answers the phone. Obviously, the dialogue will not be word for word because this happened like 20 years ago. Hello? Hello, what hours are you open? Sorry, this is a private home number. Okay, sorry, bye. Ring. Hello? Again, the voice of me. Yeah, hello, what hours are you open today? Sir, wrong number again. This happens all the time. Someone printed the wrong number. Who are you? This is my family home. Click. A little while later, the phone rings again. Hello? Yeah, can I talk to anyone else? So I go and get my mom and stay next to her to listen. Mom. Hello? What hours are you open today? Mom proceeds to explain the situation since she didn't hear my previous conversations with this man. But I got the number from Yellow Pages. Well, they got it wrong. Someone's messing with me. I made sure to check the number I'm dialing multiple times. You dialed the right number. It's just not the number you're looking for. So what's their number if this is yours? I don't know. We didn't at the time, only assumed they would be similar. The man then proceeded to complain about how the kid shouldn't be answering the phone because he didn't call to talk to dumb kids, but to find out when the pool is open. Sir, we don't have a pool. Fast forward to tomorrow. Ring. A woman's voice. Hello, until when are you open today? Me. This is a private home, blah blah blah. Woman, voice muffled, obviously covering the mic with her hand or something. Yeah, George, it's the kid. The same man from yesterday, from a distance. Ask them if they happen to know when the so-and-so pool is open if they live nearby. Woman. Do you happen to know when the pool is open? Me. For heck's sake. Woman. Wow, you shouldn't talk to older people like that. Is that how your parents raised you? Me. Lady, please don't call anymore. I have to do my homework. Click. The day after, we finally changed our home phone number. Forget you, Yellow Pages.
Do this next. Tap here on your screen to come see our new podcast playlist, where you'll find thousands of hours of the best stories you've ever heard. Or tap the one on the right. That episode is specifically just for you, based on other videos you've enjoyed the most.